Her slender feet were bound tightly by shackles. A familiar voice echoed in her ears. "Master, do you know how long this disciple has waited?" Seeing him, she shouted angrily, filled with confusion. "You scoundrel! What nonsense are you spouting? Release me at once." He sat smugly on the bed, instead accusing her. "Wasn't it Master who provoked me first? What, are you regretting it now?" Hearing this, she still couldn't understand his rambling, stubbornly retorting, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Du Yunxing sighed. "Sigh whatever you say anyway." His face expressionless, he said, "Now, this disciple has already administered the soft bone powder to you and bound you with chains. No matter what, I will rebel against you to the very end. Master, don't blame me." As soon as he finished speaking, he embraced her frantically, his presumptuous hands even pulling down her collar. Seeing his audacious actions, Xiaoning was momentarily stunned. Frowning, she cursed, "Insolent! Du Yunxing, are you mad?" He replied without hesitation, "Yes." Having said that, he nonchalantly nibbled her earlobe, shamelessly declaring, "You drove me mad." At this moment, his hands tightly embraced her smooth back, shamelessly kissing Xiaoning's chest, causing her to turn her face away in shame and anger. In her heart, she wondered, how did it become like this? How did it become like this? She recalled Yunxing as a child. Back then, he was an extremely obedient and well-behaved child who would politely address her as master. Now that he had grown up, he had become a rebellious disciple. What exactly happened during her closed-door cultivation? Why did he suddenly become like this? 11 years ago, the demonic path was rampant, wreaking havoc everywhere. That year was the year Xiaoning came of age. She was already the strongest sword cultivator of the Diantong sect, leading her fellow disciples to slay demons and eliminate evil, and was appointed by the headmaster/master as the successor. But not long after, as soon as the headmaster/master passed away, the elders' attitudes changed. Using the excuse that a woman couldn't hold power, they allowed a philandering senior brother to succeed as headmaster. She retorted, "Why? Just because he has an extra piece of flesh between his legs." Seeing the incompetent appearance of that senior brother made her furious. Xiaoning stood in front of the forbidden grounds and muttered to herself, "Just you wait. Once I open the forbidden grounds barrier and find the legendary forbidden techniques, I will definitely completely change the sect's rules of succession." Just as she was thinking, Xiaoning suddenly noticed a crack appear in the forbidden grounds. With a bang, something flew out from within. She was stunned. It turned out to be a little boy. Seeing that he was about to fall, she quickly stepped forward to support him. "Hey, are you all right? Wake up." At this moment, the boy weakly groaned a few times. The boy trembled as he pointed towards the forbidden grounds. Quickly seal the hole, otherwise the demons." Hearing this, she furrowed her brows in shock. Demons. Before Xiaoning could react, sinister dark shadows appeared behind the opening, along with blood-red eyes staring fixedly at them. Those monsters had hideous forms that desperately tried to escape. Xiaoning thought in horror. So the forbidden grounds are the entrance for demons. I have to seal it quickly. With that said, she exhausted all her strength to set up a barrier at the opening. After several hours of fierce battle, she finally managed to repel them. Xiaoning was drenched in sweat, forcing a smile. Just sealing a hole nearly depleted all my spiritual energy. I can't imagine what would happen if I open that door. It seems like I won't be finding any forbidden techniques. She staggered to her feet, looking at the child and thinking. However, for this child to escape the demon's pursuit alone, he's definitely no ordinary person. Thinking of this, she picked up the child, a glint of calculation flashing in her eyes. I'll take this little rascal as my disciple and groom him to be the sect master. Then, I'll control the entire sect as his master. Xiaoning held him smugly. This plan isn't bad either. I'll treat this child's injuries first. She quickly brought him back to heal his wounds and also helped him conceal his identity, allowing him to smoothly enter the sect. The child was only 7 years old at the time. By the time he was 10, she dedicated herself to teaching him, hoping he would quickly become the sect's strongest disciple. Just like that, during a battle, Xiaoning was unfortunately injured and had to enter closed-door cultivation to heal. Filled with worry, she instructed her little disciple, "Yunxing, your master needs to enter closed-door cultivation for a few years to heal. During this time, you must work hard on your cultivation and not slack off, understand?" He was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes. This disciple understands. I will definitely cultivate diligently and not disappoint Master. Hearing this, she felt relieved to leave. Good. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you until I come out of seclusion. Back in the present, Xiaoning never imagined that her well-behaved disciple would grow up to be like this. She shouted furiously, "After all these years of my seclusion, you've become like this." She tried to push him away, but he shamelessly said, "Master, do you know? I originally wanted to wait a few more years before doing these things with you, but you always tempt me. How could I possibly resist?" She turned her head away in shame and anger, exclaiming, "Crazy, this child is truly crazy." Xiaoning, taking advantage of his inattention, quietly gathered a trace of spiritual energy in her palm, condensing the little bit of energy she had just recovered. She widened her eyes and shouted sharply, "Break." But after waiting for a long time, the iron chains didn't budge. Instead, Du Yunqing pressed her down onto the bed even tighter. He pressed down harder. Looking at the chains still firmly bound around her wrists, she asked in surprise, "Why isn't it working at all?" Du Yunqing praised, "Master, your spiritual power is recovering really quickly. Truly impressive." He added, "Unfortunately, this is Xian iron, specially forged for you. It can't be broken." He gripped her arms tightly and whispered, "It's just to prevent Master from pushing me away again. I can only offend you like this." Hearing this, she panicked and asked urgently, "What exactly do you want to do?" Du Yunqing gently interlocked his fingers with hers. He gave a wicked smile and said, "Wasn't I clear enough just now?" He stated without hesitation, "I just want to do some absurd things with Master." Saying this, he leaned closer to Xiaoning's fair shoulder. She struggled desperately, crying out helplessly, "No, you can't do this." He ignored her completely, shamelessly placing a burning kiss on her shoulder. She began to pant, completely losing control of her emotions, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Yunqing, you're going too far." Du Yunqing's large frame pressed down on Xiaoning, making it impossible for her to break free. She cursed inwardly. "Damn it, the spiritual power I just recovered has been suppressed by him again. Could it be that I really have to let him do as he pleases? We are master and disciple. We absolutely cannot do this." He had her pinned firmly to the bed. Xiaoning closed her eyes tightly, telling herself that this absurd thing absolutely could not happen like this. She had to stop it. She bit her lip, trying to endure, and actually bit it until it bled. The taste of blood gave her an idea. That's right. She could use the innate curse to escape. She remembered that when she rescued Du Yunqing, she had secretly planted the innate curse within him, anticipating that he might lose control one day. This poison was nourished by her blood, and to activate it, she only needed to drip her blood onto him and chant the incantation. He would then feel as if thousands of threads were piercing his body, suffering unbearable pain. Xiaoning glared at this troublesome disciple before her. For so many years, he had never shown any demonic tendencies. She had long forgotten about this matter. Without thinking much, she kissed his cheek, never expecting to use it at a time like this. Du Yunqing was stunned. He touched his face and exclaimed in surprise, "Master, you just..." Before he could finish speaking, she interrupted him, blood as the guide, threads as the connection. His eyes widened in shock. In an instant, countless golden threads appeared on his sturdy body. He asked in a panic, What is this?" Xiaoning took the opportunity to quietly straighten her clothes and explained the innate curse. "You should have heard of its power. If you don't want to suffer, release me quickly." He asked incredulously, "The innate curse? You actually planted the innate curse on me. When did this happen? How could I not know?" Thinking about this, a trace of dejection flashed through his eyes. Could have been a long time ago. But in an instant, Du Yunqing started laughing maniacally. "Huh? I thought Master was finally approaching me on her own initiative. It turns out you've been guarding against me all along." He placed his hand on his chest and called her name. "Xiaoning, haven't you had a single ounce of sincerity towards me all these years?" Was even our master-disciple bond fake? She didn't want to waste words with him and coldly commanded, "Cut the crap. Release my chains, or you won't be able to bear the pain of the innate curse." But Du Yunqing wasn't as easy to deal with as she had imagined. Instead, he roughly pinched her delicate cheek. He looked at her possessively and asked, "What if I don't do as you say?" The situation escalated, and she coldly chanted the incantation. His whole body began to tremble, and he gritted his teeth in anger. Du Yunqing gently wiped the blood from the corner of Xiaoning's lips with his finger and said with difficulty, "Master, You truly are heartless. But she showed no mercy and continued to chant with her eyes closed. He screamed in agony, ah. His body could no longer bear it, and he suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood, collapsing to the ground. Du Yunqing gasped, covered in cold sweat, and accused, shouting, "You're too cruel." Seeing him like this, her heart softened slightly, and she warned, "If you can't bear it, then release me." But he stubbornly increased his grip and gritted his teeth. Never. He threw back his head and laughed maniacally. "If you have the guts, then kill me." Shouting frowned and advised, "Don't be so stubborn. I'll spare you this time. Go and think things over." He retorted indignantly, "Why should I?" Du Yunqing, as if driven mad, covered his face and sneered, "All these years, we relied on each other. Why is it that only I've been driven to madness, yearning for you, while you still treat me as a disciple?" His thoughts twisted. "I once survived in filth and darkness, without hope, without a future. You saved me, taught me to read. After all this time, how could I not fall in love with you?" He recalled his younger self, every moment spent by her side, a mix of emotions swirling within him. "But I understood, we are master and disciple. Such feelings are not tolerated in this world. So I never spoke of them, only wishing to bury these feelings deep in my heart." At this point, Du Yunqing's voice grew increasingly furious. He roared, "But it was you who provoked me." Hearing this, shouting furrowed her brows in confusion. "I provoked you." He insisted, "Yes, master, you started it." He sneered, recalling, "You call me by my nickname, held my hand, touched my face. Now why? Why won't you admit it?" Du Yunqing clutched his chest, walking towards the door in pain, murmuring, "Enough. Whether you admit it or not, everything is ruined now. I won't let you go." He turned back, his expression resolute. "Master, you're mine. You can only be mine." Hearing these words, shouting froze, sitting stunned on the bed. She frowned, thinking to herself, what is he talking about? I've been in seclusion. How could I have provoked him? Something isn't right. She began to circulate her spiritual energy, pondering. The celestial silk goo is connected to the bloodlines of both the host and the afflicted. Tonight, I will push the celestial silk goo into his dreams. Perhaps I can find some clues. Late at night, within the Ningxin pavilion, Zhu Yanshan slept soundly, completely unaware. Shouting cast a spell, establishing a magical connection with his body. She gently stepped into Du Yunqing's dream, silently looking around, a mix of emotions stirring within her. The first place she entered was a dilapidated temple. Finally inside, Du Yunqing's dream, Shouting let out a long sigh of relief and widened her eyes, taking in her surroundings. So that's how it is. Shouting looked to the side and saw an image of herself and him resting after a fierce battle. Back then, Du Yunqing was just a child. Stroking her chin, she recalled, that was 5 years ago, the first time I took him down the mountain to eliminate a demon. He was so young then, and he stayed up all night with me, ending up injured. Such a good child. It pained me. Suddenly, he was gazing at her while she slept. Why is he looking at me like that? Shouting felt puzzled. She didn't notice Du Yunqing secretly kissing her face. When he realized his mistake, he immediately apologized. Master, I didn't mean to. She covered her mouth in shock. Du Yunqing, he already, at that age, A moment later, Shouting was transported to another place. She froze for a moment, then asked, the dream has changed. This is my bedroom. Hearing the voice behind her, she couldn't help but shiver. Yunqing, come here. Oh no, the atmosphere was becoming intimate. Du Yunqing was now a tall, handsome young man, making her curiously turn around. He asked seriously, Master, why did you call me here so late? Why? Shouting was heavily made up, her expression somewhat sharp. She said, what? You don't like your master anymore. Seeing herself reach out and caress Du Yunqing's face, she couldn't help but gasp. This what's going on? Is this Du Yunqing's daytime fantasy, a nighttime dream, or did these things really happen? His forehead beaded with sweat as he replied, no, it's just that Master is acting so strangely all of a sudden. She said coquettishly, strange how? Strangely cute. He frowned, his cheeks gradually flushing. He was actually shy, but he subconsciously pushed her hand away, rejecting her. He then regained his composure and said respectfully, Master, please rest early. I should go back now. With that, he calmly left. Seeing this scene, Shouting was shocked. This child actually rejected me. She worried, could this be what Yunqing meant when he said I had provoked him? But for some reason, I forgot. But why did Yunqing resist me so much? What have I done? Her heart suddenly raced. Du Yunqing sat up in pain. At this moment, Shouting also returned to reality from the dream, seemingly sensing that he had awakened. Looking at her hands, she said regretfully, I can feel that he woke up because of the pain. I was too harsh with him today. She closed her eyes tightly, blaming herself. I shouldn't have resorted to such violent methods. Tomorrow, when he comes, I must ask him clearly and get to the bottom of this. Several hours later, it was still pitch black outside. Unable to sleep all night, Zhu Yinshan went to the scripture pavilion. Holding a book, he muttered to himself, I remember seeing a method to reverse the heavenly silk goo in one of these books. He flipped through a few pages, his eyes suddenly lighting up. Found it, he exclaimed joyfully. The book explained that the blood of the heavenly silk goo is inextricably linked to the caster. If the poisoned person makes the caster drink their own blood, the caster will lose control, overwhelmed by desire. A triumphant smile spread across his face. Perfect timing, Zhu Yinshan thought to himself. Master, there's no escape for you now. Early the next morning, Du Yunxing arrived at Xiaoning's room and gently called out, Master, did you sleep well last night? Startling her. Flustered, she blurted out, Actually, I was just about to look for you. He feigned surprise, gasping dramatically as he sat down on the edge of the bed. Oh, it's rare for Master to initiate a conversation. What's the matter? He asked with a playful smile. She went straight to the point. You said I was clinging to you. I honestly don't remember anything. I'll investigate this and give you an explanation. Xiaoning frowned, a troubled expression on her face. Also, I need to tell you, at your age, it's easy to develop dependence and admiration for elders. This isn't love, it's just. Before she could finish, he sighed, cutting her off. Disappointment filled his eyes as he accused her. I didn't expect you to not only deny everything, but also completely invalidate my feelings. Du Yunxing glared at her resentfully. Then does Master remember how you flirted with others? Like sneaking off to see second uncle late at night. Panic flared within her. Wait, second senior brother and I. He suddenly pulled a small knife from his sleeve, interrupting her. Enough, Master, stop pretending. Whether you admit it or not, it doesn't matter anymore, he said in a low voice. I don't want to drag this out any longer. With that, he sliced his palm. Xiaoning's eyes widened, shock rendering her speechless. Du Yunxing held his blood-covered hand up to her. Before she could react, he squeezed drops of blood into her mouth. Xiaoning swallowed reflexively. A low moan escaped her lips. Xiaoning's brow furrowed in pain, her voice trembling as she stammered, cough. Cough. He casually bandaged his wound, a smirk playing on his lips. Don't blame me, Master. You'll feel very comfortable soon. A sudden wave of heat washed over her. Her cheeks flushed. What's happening? I'm so hot, she wondered. Du Yunxing leaned down, cupping her face. Master, it's just you and me here now. Don't resist, okay. Trembling, she still refused. No, he gently stroked her neck. He roughly tore open her clothes, his voice low. Look at me, just like you did before your seclusion. Your eyes should only have me in them. She weakly struggled. No, let go that I can't. Her body burned, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Du Yunxing, you can't stop it now, he said, his expression crazed. It can't be stopped. Master will be mine soon. How can it stop? I'm going to make you mine, and no one will ever see you again. She glared at him, her teeth gritted. Xiaoning looked at him helplessly, issuing a threat. Du Yunxing, listen to me. If you dare do this, I will never forgive you for the rest of my life. A flicker of panic crossed his eyes at her words. The hand around her waist stiffened. The tension in the room reached its peak when suddenly a noise came from outside. Xiaoning then remembered that the bell was connected to the outer gate, indicating someone had arrived. He thought to himself, I could pretend I didn't hear it. No one could find this secret room anyway. But then he recalled what Master had just said. Not wanting her to hate him, he feigned a teasing tone. Someone's here. Master is quite lucky. Du Yunxing released her. I've already suppressed the heat from the ancient blood for you, Master. I was afraid you couldn't handle it. Xiaoning shamefully pulled her clothes closed. He stood up and turned to leave. I'll go take care of this. Master, I'll see you tonight. She muttered to herself. I didn't expect him to be so stubborn, completely ignoring what I said. Xiaoning calmed herself, resolving, this can't go on. I have to find an opportunity to absorb his spiritual energy and find a way to call for help. After finishing his business, Du Yunxing returned to Ningxin Pavilion to find Xiaoning. He held a bowl of porridge, his voice full of concern. This is Lin Yunji porridge, Master's favorite. I specially went down the mountain to buy it. Master, try it. She was surprised. Lin Yunji porridge. Her eyes suddenly brightened, as if an idea had struck her. This was her chance. She stared at him, thinking to herself that Du Yunxing disliked the taste of porridge and had never eaten it, so he wouldn't know what was in it. With this thought, she pretended to obediently take a few bites. Not long after, she began to cough violently. Cough. Shouting covered her mouth, coughing. Why is this porridge so salty? Zui Yunqing looked at her suspiciously. Feigning discomfort, Shouting continued to goad him. If you don't believe me, try it yourself, he said happily, sharing a spoon of porridge with Master. Wouldn't that be considered? She watched him slowly bring a spoonful of porridge to his lips, her heart filled with a nervous tension. I'm sorry, Yunqing. You've had an intolerance to almonds since you were young. They make you weak. And this porridge happens to have almonds in it. Zui Yunqing, completely unsuspecting, swallowed the porridge and smiled. Master was just teasing me, wasn't she? This porridge is clearly sweet. But before he could finish his sentence, his face turned deathly pale. The bowl slipped from his grasp, shattering on the floor. The pitiful Zui Yunqing clenched his fists, unable to speak. The porridge. He could no longer support himself and collapsed. Zui Yunqing fell onto her, completely unconscious. Shouting frowned, a look of concern on her face. In a low voice, she murmured, I'm sorry. She quickly reached out, absorbing some of his spiritual energy, and then hastily sent out a message for help. Immediately afterwards, a slip of paper flew into Lin Yingxin's hands. This area is truly vast. A confused disciple asked, Senior Brother Luo, I didn't quite understand the cultivation method you just explained. A nearby man who looked like a scholar replied, Ask me anything you don't understand, and I'll explain it again. The disciple said shyly, It's just that. The man was none other than Shouning's second senior brother, Luo Wenxiu. Suddenly, he stopped walking and said, Wait. The three of them looked down and saw a small piece of paper on the ground. What's this? He picked it up curiously. Written on it were the words, Save me, Ningxin Pavilion. Shouting. Luo Wenxiu's eyebrows furrowed in shock as he read the note. Junior sister Ning is in danger. He immediately rushed off, not forgetting to instruct the disciples, I have urgent business at Ningxin Pavilion. You all head back first. If you have any questions, ask me when I return. The disciples obediently replied, Yes, Senior Brother Luo, please go quickly. The two disciples began to whisper, Why is Senior Brother Luo going to Ningxin Pavilion? That's a den of demons. The other said nonchalantly, Whatever. As long as that demonic woman doesn't lash out at us again, it's fine. Just then, Zui Yunqing gradually regained consciousness. Shouting looked at him in surprise. He was propped up on one hand, leaning against the edge of the bed. He leaned close to her face and asked, Master, what did you do? She broke out in a nervous sweat, wondering how he had woken up so quickly. In just a few years, his cultivation had increased so much. Fortunately, she had acted fast. Suddenly, a bell rang outside. He wondered, puzzled, it's almost midnight. Who would come to Ningxin Pavilion so late? Zui Yunqing immediately left and respectfully clasped his hands in greeting. Second martial uncle. He asked directly, Where is Shouting? I want to see her. He casually lied. Master is in seclusion again. Second martial uncle. If you have anything to say, you can tell me, and I'll be sure to relay it to her when she comes out. The man said indifferently, Is that so? His face expressionless, he suggested, Then I'll just send a voice transmission from outside the secret chamber. Although Zui Yunqing was a little suspicious, he pretended to be calm. Please, go ahead. He even enthusiastically led the way. This way, please. Following behind Luo Wenxiu. Second martial uncle felt a little uneasy. Did he suspect something? Zui Yunqing forced himself to remain composed, comforting himself. It's fine. I've already set up restrictions on the secret chamber. He shouldn't be able to discover anything. A moment later, Luo Wenxiu had circled Ningxin Pavilion, finding nothing unusual. He went downstairs, lost in thought. There's nothing out of the ordinary, only a letter asking for help. The calmer it is, the more problematic it becomes. This matter definitely has something to do with Zui Yunqing. Just as he was pondering, someone called out second martial uncle from behind him, startling him. Zui Yunqing stepped forward and asked, Did the voice transmission reach her? He replied with a smile, Yes, it's been taken care of. Then, practically ushering him out, he added, It's getting late, second martial uncle. You should go back and rest. He quickly stopped him. There's no need to see me out. You should stay in Jining Pavilion. He added another reminder. Take good care of your master. Zui Yunqing stroked his chin and replied, naturally. After Luo Wenxiu left, he dropped his feigned smile, inwardly praising his master's skill. Then, he impatiently pushed open the door to Shouning's prison cell. Carefully closing the door behind him, he spoke with a mocking tone. I didn't expect Master to be flirting with other men while locked up. She was stunned. Huh? He grabbed her arm and questioned her. You tricked me with the almond cakes, just to send a message to Luo Wenshio. What? Are you eager to return his side? Shouting impatiently flung off his arm. You're talking nonsense again. Even without my second senior brother, do you really think you can lock me up forever? She continued doubtfully, but it seems that in the 5 years I've been in seclusion, your skills have indeed improved quite a bit. Even my second senior brother didn't realize I was here. This sentence made him pause. 5 years. She reminded him pointedly, but you should know that the news will eventually leak out. I advise you to release me now. It will be more beneficial for you. At this moment, Zui Yunqing was more concerned about the timeline she had just mentioned. Master had only come out of seclusion 3 years ago. Looking at his master, who had been resistant from the beginning, he wondered, could she really have lost her memory? Is she not lying to me? Master, you've never truly trusted me, have you? Zui Yunqing said as he took a medicine bottle from his sleeve and poured out a jet black pill. He quickly stuffed the pill into Shouning's mouth before she could react. Seeing her eyes widen, he smoothly explained, to prevent you from being disobedient, I can only give you a few doses of soft bone powder. Master, please don't be angry. After speaking, he cast another spell on Shouning as a precaution. He then reached out and picked her up, carrying the dazed Shouning away. When we get there, Master will hear many interesting stories. Meanwhile, within Jianmu Palace, Luo Wenshio strode in confidently. He bowed respectfully. Greetings, eldest senior brother, Sect leader. Lazily reclining on the dragon bed was Shouning's eldest senior brother, Sect leader Zatsi. He asked boredly, what brings you here so late? He thought for a moment. Eldest senior brother and junior sister have always been at odds. If I directly ask him to save her, he definitely won't agree. So he carefully chose his words, replying respectfully, I heard that junior sister Shouning suddenly entered seclusion and seems to be showing signs of chi deviation. I came specifically to ask eldest senior brother for help. He thought, if I pretend that junior sister has chi deviation, eldest senior brother will definitely take the opportunity to bring people to suppress her. However, the sect leader simply yawned and said with a lack of interest, if she has chi deviation, let her overcome it herself. I'm sleepy. I'm not going. Hearing this, he was immediately disappointed, realizing he had overestimated him. He had to try a different approach. However, recently other sects have been talking about her sect. What if someone takes this opportunity to harm junior sister? This time, he hit the sect leader's weak spot. He suddenly reacted, take the opportunity. Why didn't I think of that? He immediately ordered, go, call some disciples to go to Ningxin Pavilion to help your junior sister. Hearing this, he immediately agreed, yes. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief, finally having persuaded him. At this moment, in a corner of the garden, Zui Yunqing and Shouning were hiding behind the bushes. What are you trying to do? She asked suspiciously. Clearly, she could only communicate through eye contact and mental messages. He explained, Master cultivates daily and is probably unaware of how much the sect disciples like this pavilion. Every night, the disciples often gather here to discuss what they saw in the secret realm. She still didn't understand his intentions. So, what does that have to do with me? On the other side, the gossip had already begun. Say, why did Master rush to Ningxin Pavilion tonight? Someone chimed in. I bet it's because he was seduced by that bewitching female demon. Hearing this, she was filled with suspicion. Bewitching female demon. Besides me, are there other women in Ningxin Pavilion? The person continued, munching on a pastry. Makes sense. Master Luo loves taking care of people, especially his childhood friend and senior brother. Anyone could easily fall for him. She thought to herself, poor Master Luo. Another person interjected, just consider Master Luo sacrificing himself for everyone. If it weren't for him, we'd still be chased by that pervert Shouning. Only then did she realize that she was the subject of everyone's discussion. Wait, are they talking about me when they say pervert? Seeing her reaction, he was pleased. He thought, judging by Master's expression, she really doesn't remember anything. A glint flashed in his eyes as he secretly plotted. In that case, this is a good opportunity. He then asked softly, Master, do you know why I dare to confine you? At the same time, his hand rested casually on her shoulder, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Then he answered his own question Actually, we've been in love for a long time. You even promised to marry me, but then you dumped me and went after someone else. She was stunned speechless by his earth-shattering words, so much so that she didn't even notice his inappropriate actions. In love, and even promised to marry. After listening to his pitiful story, he complained aggrievedly, "Tell me, how could I not be angry?" Completely captivated by his Oscar-worthy performance, she was entirely drawn into this drama, losing all sense of direction. Could it be that I really did dump him? Seeing her bewildered expression, he curled his lips into a smile. Master is panicking. It seems she really has lost her memory. Then if I trick her into taking responsibility? Suddenly, a voice cut through the night, "Fellow disciples." Both of them were startled and abruptly turned their heads. He noticed the commotion and felt puzzled. Who? It's Luo Wenxiao. Under orders to convey that sect leader Zatsiji commands you to immediately follow me to Ningxin Pavilion to assist senior sister, shouting in breaking the confinement. She listened dumbfounded. Senior brother Luo. Similarly, the other disciples were also shocked, but the person in question was actually her. To save that seductive demonic woman. He was instantly furious and barked, "What are you still standing around for? Come with me." The disciples were frightened and responded repeatedly, "Yes, yes, yes." Hearing this, she couldn't help but mutter to herself, "Save me." How did second senior brother persuade that stubborn fool? Not only did she find it unbelievable, but he was also surprised. That Luo Wenxiao is quite patient, actually managing to persuade that blockhead. I have to get Master back quickly and re-establish the barrier as soon as possible. Thinking of this, he immediately scooped her up into his arms, while she carefully assessed the situation. The situation is unclear right now. I absolutely can't let Yunqing be caught by that stubborn fool. And there's also second senior brother. Help me undo the restriction. I have something to say. But she couldn't make a sound. She subconsciously struggled, thinking about helping him, but he misunderstood, thinking that Master wanted to break free from the restriction and call for help. So he immediately covered her mouth. Luo Wenxiao, hearing the noise, cautiously approached the bushes. He called out, "Who's hiding there?" Zui Yunqing vigilantly suppressed his aura. The night was dark and silent, and the other side was equally quiet. But Luo Wenxiao was still suspicious. He turned to the disciples and said, "I'll go take a look. You go find sect leader Zatsiji and tell everyone to come." The disciples worriedly suggested, "Uncle Master Luo, let us go with you." In the bushes, Zui Yunqing covered Shouning's mouth with one hand, holding his breath and listening intently to the sounds outside. Suddenly, he bit his lip hard and abruptly turned his head. Shouning was startled by him. They were extremely close, and her face instantly flushed. Her eyes widened, shocked by his audacity. He actually dared to bring his face close to her pale neck, even opening his mouth as if to bite. Instead of feeling humiliated or angry, strange thoughts popped in her head. He dares to do this now. Is he crazy? What if someone sees? At this moment, a disciple outside shouted loudly, "Who's in there? Come out. Don't make Uncle Master Luo go in himself." She became even more nervous, thinking, "It's over. They're really coming over. How am I going to face the sect now?" She hurriedly pushed his chest, struggling symbolically, as if saying, "All right, stop messing around. Don't go too far." He was already satisfied with this small advantage, and with a smile, he snapped his fingers. Instantly, a bird flapped its wings and flew out, chirping. As expected, everyone's attention was drawn to the commotion. The disciples breathed a sigh of relief. It was just a bird, false alarm. But he still looked in that direction, still uneasy, and carefully parted the bushes, thinking, was it really just a bird? He continued to stare vigilantly ahead. Just then a sharp voice rang out, "Luo Wenxiao, what are you doing? Hurry up and take the person to Ningxin Pavilion." Zazi eroid impatiently. Having no other choice, he quickly responded, "Yes." He then dismissed his doubts and hurriedly left with the disciples. "Let's go, let's go." At this moment, Zui Yunqing put one arm around her waist and kept his other hand over her mouth, warning in a low voice, "If Master still wants to call for help, there will be a price to pay, just like last time." She finally understood that he thought, "I wanted to call for help." She immediately pointed to her mouth with her finger. He understood and immediately lifted the silencing spell on Shouting. As soon as the spell was lifted, she blurted out, "I wasn't trying to call for help. If there truly was a mistake, I will investigate it impartially." Of course, this was only one of the reasons. She silently added in her heart, "The most important thing is to find a way to escape from the secret room." The plan worked. He lowered his head, scrutinizing her through her eyes. She wants to help me escape, but can I really trust Master's words? Meanwhile, everyone else was rushing towards Ningxin Pavilion. He spoke earnestly, just as they had planned, about rescuing their possessed junior sister, Xiaoying, from confinement. Luo Wenxiu took the lead, echoing yes. The temple bell rang incessantly, ding ding, dong dong. Meanwhile, he had already carried her back to his room. Xiaoning said worriedly that straw dummy was fake. If I don't show up today, they won't give up. Give me the antidote. I'll go deal with them. She finally made the suggestion as he set her down by the bed, adding, trust me. He paused, staring at her. So Yunxing narrowed his eyes, thinking, trust her. After all she's done, like drugging me with aphrodisiacs, toying with my feelings, and tricking me with almonds to escape, even denying that my feelings for her are love. It's too difficult to trust her unconditionally. Even so, he always found himself at a disadvantage in front of her. He said, Master, I really shouldn't trust you. But his hand had already reached into his pocket. He took out the antidote, poured out a pill, and mumbled, but my heart still wants to gamble. Then he put the pill in his mouth. Before she could react, he took the initiative to kiss her, their tongues entwined, tenderly passing the medicine. He took the opportunity to kiss her deeply for a long time, thinking, Master, this time I'm betting you'll be on my side. The flowers outside the house seemed to bloom at this moment, witnessing his feelings. Zui Yunxing closed his eyes, immersed in this beautiful moment. Xiaoning's eyes widened, and she stood frozen, not daring to move. Luo Wenxiu, close behind Zatsi Ji, hurriedly turned back and ordered the disciples, quick, seal off the front floors, hurry. Zatsi Ji, walking in front, narrowed his eyes slightly, a soft R reaching his ears. Zui Yunxing stood in the middle of the path, partially blocking the way, and asked with a smile, the night dew is heavy. Why doesn't Sect leader wait until dawn to pay respects to Master? His eyes were gentle, his slender fingers covering his mouth as he continued to ask, why bring so many people to Ningxin Pavilion so suddenly? Zatsi Ji, followed by his disciples, waved his hand, his face contorted and his mouth twitching as he shouted, does this Sect leader need to explain himself to you? Get out of the way. Yunxing thought to himself, Master still needs to recover her spiritual power. I have to stall for time. He respectfully clasped his hands and bowed his head, firmly refusing, I apologize, but Master ordered me to guard this place. I'm afraid I cannot obey the Sect leader's command. Zatsi Ji became even more displeased, clenching his fists, his face turning red with anger. He roared, insolent. You dare listen to her, and not me. He then turned to the dumbfounded disciples and yelled, someone, seize him. Luo Wenxiu looked back at the trembling disciples, tears almost welling up, and cried, Sect leader, Master, we can't beat him. Hearing this, Zatsi Ji frowned, his face darkening, and stared coldly at them. Seeing the Sect leader's anger, the disciples summoned their courage, suppressing their fear, and charged forward together, shouting, I'll do it. Zui Yunxing, seeing everyone surrounding him, was about to circulate his spiritual power, but suddenly stopped, thinking, these people are no match for me. But if I fight back, how can Master save me? The corners of his mouth curled up slightly into a satisfied smile, the red flames in his palm gradually gathering. A purple light enveloped the space around him, his heart firm. Since I'm gambling, I'll gamble big. He slowly closed his eyes, feeling everything. Suddenly, a powerful spiritual force blasted 3 of Zatsi Ji's disciples away, and a majestic voice rang out, who dares touch him? A pair of long legs, clad in exquisite embroidered shoes, stepped out from the doorway. Xiaoning walked out with a heroic air, her gaze firm, staring coldly ahead. Zatsi Ji's face became even uglier, wondering, wasn't Xiaoning possessed? Luo Wenxiu, standing behind him, was secretly delighted to see her. Junior sister is all right. Xiaoning's voice was icy as she questioned Zatsi Ji. What is the meaning of this? She stood sternly in front of Zui Yunxing, shielding him behind her, her sharp gaze fixed on him. While I was in seclusion, you took the opportunity to bully my disciple. Zui Yunxing, standing behind her, was secretly delighted. It seems I bet right this time. He looked at her slender back, thinking contentedly, it feels good to be protected by Master. Zatsi Ji, hearing her address him directly by name, rebuked, insolent. You dare address me by my name. Shouting, hearing his scolding, slowly replied, so what if I call you by your name? What else are you going to do? Zatsi Ji, furious, retorted you. Watching the chaotic scene unfold, Luo Wenxiu thought to himself, with her charm, he wouldn't dare hit junior sister Ning. This was his way of leaving himself an out. Luo Wenxiu stepped forward, blocking Zatsi Ji, and mediated, junior sister Ning, you've misunderstood. Senior brother and I are here to save you. We're not here to cause trouble, he continued. Aren't you in some kind of trouble? I was worried about you. He reached out to take her hand. Seeing them about to hold hands, Zhuo Yunqing inwardly grumbled. Does he want to hold Master's hand? Zhuo Yunqing discreetly circulated his spiritual energy. Shouting suddenly evaded his touch, casually remarking, I'm fine. I don't need rescuing. Thank you for your concern. Seeing this, Zhuo Yunqing thought with satisfaction, Master dodged him. Luo Wenxiu wasn't giving up. He reached out again. Junior sister Ning, why are you calling me second senior brother? You used to call me by my name. Shouting withdrew her hand and gently advised, those were all misunderstandings. I'll explain to you after I've investigated. Luo Wenxiu still refused to give up, retorting. But, just then, Zatsi Ji angrily interrupted from behind. Enough. This is ridiculous. Disregarding his image, he frowned and pointed at Luo Wenxiu, scolding, Luo Wenxiu, you better give me an explanation. With that, he turned and left in a huff. Humph. Caught in the middle, Luo Wenxiu hurriedly called out, Sect leader, senior brother. He watched Zatsi Ji and his group depart angrily, then turned back to shouting with a gentle expression. Junior sister Ning, if you encounter any difficulties, please let me know. She saw a hint of reluctance in his eyes and softly replied, okay. Shouting and Zhuo Yunqing quietly watched Luo Wenxiu's solitary figure recede into the distance. Zhuo Yunqing gently took Shouning's hand, startling her. He took the opportunity to grip her hand tightly, sternly warning, Luo Wenxiu has always been pretending to be a good person with his words. Master, don't be fooled by him. Shouting abruptly pulled her hand back. She rubbed her wrist lightly and explained, there's nothing between us. As for you, her eyes flickered as she looked at him hesitantly. If you can prove that we were indeed together, then I will take responsibility. He looked at her, speechless for a moment, then smiled with delight. Zhuo Yunqing looked at her tenderly and nodded in agreement. All right, I'll bring the proof to Master tomorrow. The next day, Shouting woke up still somewhat dazed, lying quietly in bed. Zhuo Yunqing stood quietly beside her, waiting. Her long hair spread across the bed as she opened her eyes. Seeing her awake, he leaned over and asked, Master, are you awake? She was startled the moment he spoke. She stared at the man before her, sitting up stiffly. Didn't you leave last night? Why are you still here? Zhuo Yunqing calmly replied, I really wanted to show Master the proof, but I also wanted you to have a good sleep. Resting his chin on his hand, he gazed at her intently. So I was very hesitant after I went back. I couldn't sleep at all, so I ended up coming back early in the morning to wait for Master to wake up. His eyes were full of calculation, yet also held a gentle reassurance. Master, don't worry. I'll just sit here and watch you. I won't do anything. She came back to her senses, cleared her throat, and asked with a deep gaze, cough, then where's your proof? He sat there composedly, reminding her, you've already given me the ancient immortal right, Master. You should understand, right? He thought of a beautiful butterfly, transforming from its original form into a human, its voice echoing. The mother worm of this poison has a very important characteristic. He recalled some rather indecent images and continued, if two poisoned individuals love and yearn for each other, the mother worm will grow wings. Zhuo Yunqing sat by Shouning's bed, reached out, and took her hand. So, Master, if you want proof, you can draw out the mother worm within you and see for yourself. After a moment of contemplation, she felt that his words made sense, as she had read about it in books before. She circulated her spiritual energy, her palm glowing red. Let's try it, she thought. Zhuo Yunqing smiled smugly beside her, a look of triumph on his face. He watched as a beautiful black butterfly appeared on her wrist. Looking at her focused expression, he thought with satisfaction, it seems Master still doesn't know that you drank my blood, which is why the mother worm grew wings. On the small bed, Shouting sat eyed, staring at the butterfly on her wrist, her eyes wide with disbelief. It really grew wings, she murmured. Zhuo Yunqing seized the opportunity to move closer, taking advantage of her shock. He asked intently, Master, do you believe now that we were together? Resting his chin on his hand, he looked at her alluringly. So, How does Master plan to take responsibility for me? Like those people down the mountain, for example. His gaze was sharp, deep, and beautiful as he continued to press her. Give me a title. Inside the room, Zui Yunqing's eyes flickered with anticipation, waiting for Xiaoning's response. She looked at him, thinking helplessly. Although I don't know what exactly happened during the time, I lost my memory. Looking at this gentleman before her who knew how to care for her and speak properly, she pondered. But Yunqing's temperament is both stubborn and wild. If I don't agree, I'm afraid he won't even acknowledge our master-disciple relationship. Recalling the effort she had put into him over the years, waking early and sleeping late to teach him, she thought again, 11 years. I painstakingly cultivated him for 11 years. If we become estranged today because of this matter, not only will many years of affection be ruined, but the Sect's grand plan will also go down the drain. Her gaze drifted into the distance, and she thought to herself, I can't lose Yunqing now. Then, her expression turned serious, and she said firmly, all right, today, I will go to the main hall and request the elders to grant us marriage. Seeing her agreement, Zui Yunqing's face bloomed with joy. He rejoiced inwardly. She agreed. Overjoyed, he threw himself at her and said, Master. He hugged her tightly and said coquettishly, do you know how long I've waited for you to say these words? She frowned and pushed him away, warning, we are still master and disciple. Don't be presumptuous. He gently guided her hand to touch his already stiff face and whispered, count them. Immediately, Xiaoning began to gather spiritual energy in her palm, reaching 23%, which greatly surprised him. His mind was in chaos as he leaned against her cheek, inwardly complaining, I shouldn't have loosened her reins so early, Master. Inside the Sect's main hall, below, Xiaoning and Zui Yunqing looked up at the Sect leader and the elders on the high platform. Zhatzi Ji sat high above, still with a sour expression, and asked incredulously, what did you say? You want to marry Zui Yunqing? The three grand elders frowned, their faces full of disapproval. Zui Yunqing stood respectfully behind Xiaoning. She stood at the front, hands clasped together in a bow, her expression stubborn. She looked up and answered firmly, yes, this disciple implores the three elders and the Sect leader to grant their approval. Zhatzi Ji's expression on the high platform didn't soften in the slightest. Instead, it became even uglier. The wrinkles on his face deepened, and he scolded sharply, Humph, now you know to call me Sect leader. A master wants to marry her disciple. This scandalous matter is simply a disgrace to our sect. Luo Wenxio's face was filled with anxiety as he tried to dissuade his junior sister. He frowned and said, don't joke around. Quickly explain things clearly to eldest senior brother, the Sect leader. Zhatzi Ji's gaze grew colder and more domineering. He gritted his teeth and said, fine, I'll grant your wish. The corner of his mouth curled into what he thought was a clever smile, and he announced loudly, but on the condition that Xiaoning and Zui Yunqing are expelled from the Diantong sect. The first, second, and third elders echoed in unison, we agree. This matter concerns the sect's reputation, and it should be so. Before being expelled from the sect, they must also be punished. Zui Yunqing carefully observed Xiaoning and everyone else's actions, thinking, these old geezers are even more ruthless than I imagined. Master values the sect so much, making her choose between the sect and marriage. I am afraid. Xiaoning, however, remained calm, her hands clasped in a half bow, and said indifferently, expelling Zui Yunqing and me is no problem. But her eyes suddenly sharpened, and her tone turned colder as she retorted, but has the sect leader consider how the sect will deal with those demonic creatures after we descend the mountain? As soon as she finished speaking, the main hall fell silent, and even the breathing became heavy. A pair of light footsteps slowly descended. Luo Wenxio stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Sect leader, three elders. Recalling the current state of the sect, the three grand elders of the Diantong sect were responsible for the forbidden area behind the mountain and couldn't leave the sect at will. The sect leader was incompetent and couldn't be relied upon. Second senior brother was still competent, but Xiaoning and Zui Yunqing were the pillars of the sect. Luo Wenxio, skilled at playing both sides, lowered his head and said, as if leaving a way out for both sides, recently, the demonic creatures have become increasingly harmful to the common people. If our Diantong sect loses junior sister Ning and Zui Yunqing, his face was filled with worry as he reminded them loudly, our demon-slaying strength will be greatly weakened, and the sect's prestige will also suffer. The three grand elders now seemed to be on opposite sides of the scale, caught in a dilemma. They needed Xiaoning and Zui Yunxing to help the sect eliminate demons, but the marriage between master and disciple would damage the sect's reputation. The first elder hesitated slightly and said in a low voice, "This matter." Zui Yunxing stood to the side, not surprised in the slightest, and sighed, as expected of master. She really wants it all. Su Rueilong and Zui Yunxing looked up, full of joy, thinking it was finally their turn to take charge. The three elders huddled together, whispering amongst themselves. The first elder spoke first, saying that with demonic creatures running rampant, it was a good opportunity for the various sects to establish their authority. If the Jiantong sect were to lose these two now, the second elder, after a moment of contemplation, added that he worried next year's disciple recruitment would also be affected, and the sect might. The third elder chimed in, concerned about the repercussions if the master-disciple marriage were to spread. Growing impatient, Xiaoning called out from below, "Elders, have you reached a decision?" Hearing her prompt, the three elders immediately ceased their discussion, hesitating, on the verge of speaking, but holding back. The second elder finally sighed in resignation. "Very well, for the sake of eliminating demons and upholding righteousness, we can only compromise. You will not be expelled from the sect for now, but while you remain within the sect." He narrowed his eyes, his tone a warning. "The two of you can only be secretly engaged, not married." Hearing this, Xiaoning's lips curled slightly in disdain. She looked at the group of incompetents on the platform with satisfaction, thinking to herself, as expected, "You're reluctant to give up using us so easily. But this is precisely the outcome I desired. Since a secret engagement is permitted, naturally, I can remain within the sect and slowly make long-term plans." Suddenly, she hesitated, turning to look at Zui Yunxing, who had remained quietly silent. She wondered, "I just don't know if Zui Yunxing can accept this compromise. If he doesn't agree, I have other options." At this moment, Zui Yunxing was lost in his own thoughts, completely oblivious to her gaze. He was thinking, "Master values the sect and the great undertaking of demon slaying. If I force her to choose, I'm afraid all my efforts will be in vain. After all, if it weren't for the circumstances, I would still hope Master would be willing." After a long silence, Yunxing finally lowered his head slightly and softly said, "Sect leader, and the three elders have considered this matter thoroughly." Yunxing is deeply grateful. Seeing his expression, Xiaoning's heart skipped a beat. He actually agreed. Looking at her considerate disciple, who made her heart ache, Xiaoning smiled bitterly. It seems he still can't bear to part with this master-disciple relationship and doesn't want to put too much pressure on me. Reaching the entrance of the main hall, Xiaoning and Zui Yunxing slowly walked into a room. She softly reminded him, "Since the first elder has spoken, we'll likely be assigned numerous demon-slaying tasks. You should be prepared." Hearing her instructions, he obediently replied, "Yes." As soon as the door closed, he grabbed her hand. In the dim light, he pressed her against the wall with such force and suddenness that she froze, caught completely off guard. He leaned down toward her face. Xiaoning reacted instantly, reaching out to cover Zui Yunxing's mouth. Looking at the man before her, she firmly refused, "No." Seeing her stopping him, Zui Yunxing said with some dissatisfaction, "It's just a kiss. The elders have agreed. We're officially together now." She stubbornly refused again. Still no. He finally gave up on the kiss, instead taking her hand and gently caressing it. He asked, then, on this joyous occasion, would Master accompany me for a drink? She hesitated for a moment, then frankly refused, "No." Looking at the 2 cups of wine on the table, Zui Yunxing coaxed, "It's your favorite Tenghua wine." This tactic worked. Her mouth watered as she murmured, "Tenghua wine." Recalling how she would pass out, completely unaware, after getting drunk, she thought to herself, "I've been in seclusion for so long, I've been wanting a drink." Besides, Zui Yunxing has a very low tolerance for alcohol, so there's no harm in drinking with him. Finally, she agreed, "Fine, bring the wine." A pair of slender, fair hands slowly poured the wine into the cups. A short while later, Xiaoning looked at Zui Yunxing, who had already passed out on the table, and sighed, drunk after just 1 cup. His tolerance is truly something else. Xiaoning, naturally, didn't hold back, picking up the wine pot. Then, Master will gladly finish the rest. Outside, the night sky was clear, a crescent moon having quietly hung itself in the sky. Xiaoning's eyes were hazy. She hiccuped and looked up at Zui Yunxing, who seemed to have sobered up somewhat. Flustered, she said, "Oh no, I think I drank too much." Zui Yunxing was clearly pleased with the current situation. Lowering his head, he softly called out, "Master." Xiaoning was so drunk, she couldn't distinguish between people and things. Zui Yunxing sighed softly. "Master, your disciple almost fell asleep waiting for you to pass out." He pulled her into his arms and whispered, "They say drunken words speak the sober heart. Master, there's something I want to ask you." Casually settling her on his lap, he held her close, gently stroking her flushed cheeks. He tentatively asked, "This time, when you agreed to marry me, how much of it was responsibility and how much was your true feelings?" Seeing her lack of response, he pouted slightly, a hint of grievance in his voice. "Master, tell me," he coaxed, caressing her lovely face. "Even if you say you like me just a little, I'll be satisfied." Xiaoning stammered for a long time before finally managing to squeeze out a single word. Immediately after, she began to vomit. Zui Yunxing froze after she finished. Reality crashing down, Xiaoning said in a panic, "Ah, I threw up on you." He covered his face with a resigned expression and patted her shoulder reassuringly. "It's all right, I'll be fine in a moment." She naively offered, "Let me wipe it for you." But before her hand could touch him, he grabbed it tightly, stopping her. "Master," he said, his voice a little tense. Looking at the still oblivious young woman sitting on his lap, he sincerely cautioned, "Don't move." "I finally decided to wait until our wedding before." Still hazy, her mind seemed to be lagging. "What are you talking about?" "I don't understand," she asked, confused. To coax her into obedience, he continued, "Lie down, close your eyes, and go to sleep. I'll tell you slowly later." The next day, in Xiaoning and her disciple's residence. Ugh, she wearily opened her eyes. Her gaze drifted to the tea table where they had drunk the night before, then turned to the man lying beside her. "Why are you sleeping here?" she asked, flustered. Zui Yunxing, still with his eyes closed, replied lazily, "You're the one who..." He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer. "You told me to lie on the bed," he added. Blushing, she sat up and said primly, "I was drunk last night." "I'm so sorry." Zui Yunxing, however, responded with a roguish look, "It's all right. Actually, your disciple was rather hoping for it." Suddenly, Luo Wenxio's panicked voice came from outside, junior sister shouting. Hearing him, she quickly straightened her clothes and went out, not forgetting to instruct, "Yunxing, stay here and don't come out. I'll go see what's going on." Opening the door, she looked coldly at the guest who had disturbed her so early in the morning. "Second senior brother, what are you doing here so early and in such a hurry?" she asked. Seeing him still standing dumbfounded at the door, she added, "Is something urgent?" Luo Wenxio stammered for a moment, then finally worked up the courage to speak. "Junior sister, I've been thinking all night. I want to say..." He pointed solemnly at his chest, his voice filled with conviction. "I truly like you, junior sister. I hope you can give me a chance." Xiaoning remained at the doorway, showing no intention of inviting Luo Wenxio in for tea and conversation. "Second uncle master," she stated firmly, "we are only fellow disciples. What happened before was because I lost my memory. It can't be taken seriously. Besides, you're standing at a girl's doorstep, confessing your feelings this early in the morning. Do you think you'll give up easily just because I reject you once?" Luo Wenxio replied calmly, "I knew you would say that, Xiaoning, but I won't give up." Zui Yunxing couldn't help but interject. Second uncle master is really quite persistent, glaring at the newcomer. Zui Yunxing strolled out, fastening his belt as he stood beside Xiaoning. "I'm already engaged to master," he declared calmly, staking his claim. "Second uncle master, coming here and saying these things, are you pretending I don't exist?" Zui Yunxing's disheveled morning appearance startled Luo Wenxio. "You, why are you in Xiaoning's room so early in the morning? Could it be that last night?" Zui Yunxing casually wrapped his arm around Xiaoning's waist, further asserting his presence. He hinted meaningfully, "That's right, just as you think, second uncle master." Although Xiaoning knew it wasn't true, she decided to use Zui Yunxing to fend off Luo Wenxio, so she remained silent, tacitly agreeing. After a brief silence, Luo Wenxio suddenly calmed down and chuckled softly. He said casually, "I don't mind. Before you two are officially married, I will absolutely not give up." Seeing him so optimistic in this situation, Xiaoning couldn't bring herself to be too heartless. "I never realized second Uncle Master was so infatuated with me before," she thought. Zui Yunxing responded with a provocative smile. "All right, since second Uncle Master is so confident, I'll wait and see." Luo Wenxio replied, "No rush, there's plenty of time." Watching his retreating figure, Zui Yunxing thought to himself, there's plenty of time." His gaze turned dark and calculating. If I cripple you, let's see how much time you have left. Now that his goal was achieved, Shouting flung off Zui Yunqing's hand and scolded. Nothing happened between us last night. Don't you dare spout such nonsense again. Do you hear me? Zui Yunqing replied with a wronged expression. Master only used me to make second senior brother give up, and now you're denying it. Shouting was both embarrassed and annoyed. Don't talk nonsense. I didn't use you. He played along. Yes, Master's always right. As soon as Luo Wenxiu left the courtyard, he immediately dropped his lovesick facade and sneered. Ridiculous, he actually thinks I'd be like him. Preoccupied with romance. Not him. With official business at hand, Zatsi Ji took the opportunity to mock the young couple and also order them around. Some people have inappropriate relationships. Hurry down the mountain and earn money for the sect by slaying demons. Don't just stay on the mountain being an eyesore. Zui Yunqing was already accustomed to Zatsi Ji's tactics and thought to himself, as expected, he wants to use us again. At this moment, Luo Wenxiu respectfully requested, Sect leader, I'm willing to go down the mountain with Shouting. Zatsi Ji waved his hand dismissively, whatever. Suddenly, Shouting refused. I disagree. After all, he and Zhu Yuancheng were like fire and water, and she didn't want to invite trouble. Seeing her react so strongly, Zatsi Ji became even more eager to provoke her. Oh, you disagree. The more you disagree, the more I want him to go. Shouting was exasperated. Zatsi Ji gently took Shouting's hand, and Zhu Yanqing whispered, Master, angering the sect leader will only delay important matters. For Master's sake, I'll endure it. I'll get along well with second senior brother. Shouting asked innocently, really? Zui Yunqing righteously assured her, of course. Inwardly, he was scheming. If he doesn't go down the mountain, it won't be good for me to make my move within the sect. So the three of them set off on horseback. On the way, Luo Wenxiu asked with concern, Shouting, are you tired? Have some water. Zui Yunqing immediately interjected, what do you know? Master prefers wine. Shouting, caught in the middle, was extremely awkward. She could only say awkwardly, then I'll have some wine, thank you. Zui Yunqing triumphantly showed off to Luo Wenxiu, like a child showing off a prized possession. They also frequently argued over food, whether it was matsutake meat buns, steamed dumplings, or stinky tofu, and even lodging, whether to stay at an inn or pitch a tent. Of course, Zui Yunqing always won. Although the innkeeper lost business, he still said with a smile, please take your time, esteemed guests. Welcome back next time. You are such handsome young men. Zui Yunqing took the opportunity to taunt. You don't even know what Master likes, and you still want to compete with me. Luo Wenxiu felt a lump in his throat, not knowing what to do. To stop the two from arguing further, Shouting interrupted. All right, stop arguing. It's getting late. Let's pitch our tents separately. Luo Wenxiu suggested. Shouting, why don't we pitch a tent together? I have something important to tell you. Shouting was puzzled when Zui Yunqing interjected, I'm Master's fiancé. What important matter can't be said in front of me? So Luo Wenxiu leaned closer to Shouting and whispered unceremoniously, you asked me to relay a message before, but then ignored me. Is there something you can't say? Shouting explained, actually, seeing them whispering. Zui Yunqing's expression clearly showed displeasure, but he couldn't do anything about it. Afterwards, Zui Yunqing thought to himself, it seems I need to remind him tonight. Shouting gently pointed ahead and said, second brother, go gather some firewood and clear up the misunderstanding while you're at it. Luo Wenxiu quickly replied, all right. Zui Yunqing silently watched the two chatting happily, a cold glint flashing in his eyes as he let out a cold snort. Zui Yunqing's hand discreetly moved towards the sword on his back. The night was as dark as ink. Shouting and Luo Wenxiu each carried a small bundle of firewood. Shouting softly explained, that cry for help was actually a misunderstanding. It's been cleared up now. He listened, not knowing what to say. Shouting looked at him gently. Thank the second brother for helping me out then. I hope we can put this behind us. Before Luo Wenxiu could finish, misunderstanding. Before he could finish his sentence, a sudden scream came from behind, startling them both. Shouting looked around, searching for the source of the sound. She hurriedly ran towards the direction of the scream, worried that something had happened to Yuancheng, completely ignoring Luo Wenxiu shouting behind her. Junior sister, I haven't finished yet. Despite the darkness, Shouting ran quickly, searching. The sound was clearly nearby, so why couldn't she see anyone? Suddenly, her gaze landed on Zui Yunqing. He clutched his injured arm tightly, surrounded by corpses. His face was covered in wounds, and his eyes held a pitiful plea as he looked towards Xiaoning, stirring a wave of compassion within her. Yunqing, she blurted out. She looked him up and down, anxiously grabbing his hand. What happened? Where are you hurt? Is it serious? Yunqing explained, I was ambushed by a demon. I could have handled it. He turned his head, his expression a mixture of embarrassment and grievance. But Master and second Uncle Master being alone together. It made me jealous and distracted. A flicker of guilt and unease crossed Xiaoning's eyes at his words, leaving her momentarily speechless. Gently, she helped Zui Yunqing sit down. Sit down. Let me bandage your wounds. He nodded politely. Thank you, Master. Xiaoning carefully bandaged his wounds, softly reminding him, don't get distracted at crucial moments in the future. Yunqing asked innocently, Master, are you worried about me? He leaned closer, a hint of coquettishness in his voice. Master is so kind. Flustered, she pushed him away. Hey, you're too close. Looking up at the treetops, she saw a flock of birds take flight in a panicked flurry, instantly putting her on alert. Pointing ahead, she turned back to him. Something's not right over there. I'm going to check it out. Don't wander off. He quickly grabbed her hand, his voice pleading. Master, it's just some birds. Xiaoning forcefully pulled her hand away, her voice firm. No, I'm not comfortable with that. Zui Yunqing watched her go, worry etched on his face. These brainless demons are useless, disturbing Master like this. I better go see how she's doing. In the darkness, a group of demons, eyes glowing red, bared their sharp fangs and claws, poised to attack. Luo Wenxiu lay on the ground, his face bruised and battered, fear evident in his eyes. Don't come any closer. Xiaoning raised her hand and chanted an incantation. A dazzling golden light erupted from her palm, releasing a brilliant halo of interwoven lightning that instantly sent the demons flying. In a flash, the demons were repelled. Xiaoning rushed to Luo Wenxiu's side, her voice filled with concern. Were you ambushed by demons too? His face swollen and bruised, he frowned. Yes, they suddenly attacked me. I didn't even have time to send a distress signal. Zui Yunqing watched as they helped each other to their feet, his hands unconsciously clenching into fists. He was torn, struggling to contain himself. Zui Yunqing bit his lip, his teeth grinding together. Oof. The branch in his hand snapped with a crack. He stood motionless in the darkness, a cold glint in his eyes. One hand remained clenched in a fist, while the other lifted slightly, as if signaling something. The next day, a white horse grazed peacefully. Xiaoning stood with her arms crossed, looking at Luo Wenxiu, who was leaning against a tree. Your leg injury is too severe. You can't continue demon hunting with us. Her voice softened. I've already sent a signal. Zatzi Ji will send someone to pick you up. Luo Wenxiu, his face still bearing the marks of the attack, stubbornly protested. Junior sister, I can still persevere. Xiaoning turned away, her tone firm. That's settled. Listen to me. Luo Wenxiu was left speechless. Suddenly, a voice startled him. Second Uncle Master. Zui Yunqing stood behind him, arms crossed, casually adding fuel to the fire. Look at you. You can't even take care of yourself, and you still want to travel with Master. Luo Wenxiu glanced at him, replying languidly, Don't think I don't know you were behind what happened yesterday. He frowned, continuing, What do you think Master would do if I told her? What would she do? A sneer played on Zui Yunqing's lips. He folded his arms, casually provoking him. Second Uncle Master, why don't we see who she'll believe? Will she believe me, or will she believe you? Luo Wenxiu retorted, not backing down. I have proof. Of course, Master will believe me. He looked up at Zui Yunqing, who remained with his arms crossed, gazing straight ahead, unmoved. He chuckled, trying to trick me. If you really had proof, you would have shown it by now. Why bother with the empty threats? Luo Wenxiu sneered. Master hates liars the most. Zui Yunqing fell silent, momentarily at a loss for words. Luo Wenxiu offered a kind reminder. You'll regret it when she finds out. After a moment, Zui Yunqing let out a soft laugh. He scoffed, turning to leave. As he walked away, he called back, Then I wish Second Uncle Master good luck catching me. A smile played on Zui Yunqing's lips, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Just hold on a little longer, and Master and I will be a family. Zui Yunqing's provocation left Luo Wenxiu frowning, speechless. Watching them ride away, he swore silently to himself, Dream on. I'll never let you succeed. Seeing Zui Yunqing's happy expression, Xiaoning asked, You seem very happy. He grinned. Of course, this is our first time down the mountain together, and it's just the two of us. Zui Yunqing winked at her and said sweetly, "It's a date." Xiaoning's face flushed red. She stammered, "D-date." She tried to compose herself and scolded, "Where did you learn to talk like that? Such nonsense." Zui Yunqing continued to tease her, "Is Master shy?" The two flirted, completely oblivious to the fog gradually rising in the forest. Xiaoning sensed something amiss and immediately became alert. Why is it suddenly foggy?" She watched the fog thicken and reminded Zui Yunqing, who was still looking at her, "This fog is rising too quickly. It's not normal. It might be related to demons. Be careful." Zui Yunqing looked at her adoringly and obediently replied, "Understood, Master." "Don't worry." Suddenly, they saw a figure sitting under a tree through the thin fog, constantly calling for help. "Help! Help!" Their eyes were drawn to the figure. Xiaoning immediately urged, "It seems someone is injured. Let's go and see." The horse stopped in a patch of lush green grass. Xiaoning leaned down and looked at the man leaning against the tree with concern. "Brother, where are you injured?" The young man clutched his severely injured leg and looked at them pleadingly. "My leg is broken. I can't move. Kind people, please help me." Xiaoning reached out to examine the wound. "This isn't an ordinary injury. It was caused by a demon." She turned to instruct Zui Yunqing, "I'll help him stop the bleeding. You go and gather some medicinal herbs." He replied, "Okay." After an unknown amount of time, he finally returned. The other two were sitting and talking. Zui Yunqing returned with a large pile of medicinal herbs. From afar, he heard the young man say to Xiaoning, "Thank you, Mississippi. If it weren't for you and your husband's help, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to go back today." Zui Yunqing heard Xiaoning reply, "He's not my husband." The young man looked at her curiously. "Not your husband, but he's so dependent on you." Xiaoning clenched her fists and said, "He tricked me into taking responsibility for him and tricked me into promising to marry him. I hate being deceived the most." Hearing this, Zui Yunqing became even more anxious, gripping the herbs tightly. "When he comes back, I'll break things off with him." He threw the herbs on the ground. Zui Yunqing's heart tightened, and he rushed forward in a panic. "Impossible! How did Master find out so quickly?" He anxiously explained, "Master, did you misunderstand? How could I possibly deceive you?" Xiaoning said coldly, "Misunderstand." She frowned. "I drank your blood. If you had goo worms in your body, mine would react as well. But you used this to deceive me. Isn't that right?" Zui Yunqing was shocked and afraid. You really know everything." He suddenly grabbed her hand tightly. Xiaoning shook off his hand, refusing to let him explain. "Master, I just want to be with you forever. I can't lose you." But she only replied coldly, "Get out." She said firmly, Xiaoning, swear I will never love you in this lifetime." Zui Yunqing was stunned by her words. His eyes darkened, and his whole body froze. Zui Yunqing shouted in front of Xiaoning, "Never love me in this lifetime." Tears streamed down his cheeks as he murmured over and over, "Good, very good." Tears covered his face as he kept saying, "If I had known it would be like this, I shouldn't have let you out of that secret chamber, shouldn't have deluded myself into thinking you would be moved by me." He suddenly grabbed her shoulders. He forcefully pushed her against a large tree. Xiaoning was stunned by his frantic actions. Seeing his tear-stained face, Xiaoning shouted, "Zui Yunqing, what do you want to do?" "What do I want to do?" He didn't answer, slowly approaching, tilting his head slightly, silently adding in his heart, "I just want to do what I should have done long ago." Then, he shamelessly opened his mouth and bit her delicate neck, lingering there for a long time. Xiaoning's cheeks flushed red, and she cried out in pain, "Ah." Then she angrily rebuked, "You rebellious disciple, how dare you be so disrespectful to your master? I will definitely expel you from the sect." The young man's tears fell like rain, seemingly endless. He asked dejectedly, "Then what should I do, master? I only know this way. Only this way can I keep master." He choked out his clumsy confession, his lips gradually moving upwards, becoming more brazen, closer to her ear. His heart seemed to clench in an instant. He was startled, completely unaware of what had happened. His entire body was forcibly pushed away, a sharp pain erupting in his chest. He instinctively reached out to touch it. He thought, "Master didn't push me away just now." Her figure became increasingly blurry before his eyes. His eyes widened in disbelief. The fog grew thicker, leaving only her cold gaze fixed on him. Even when her face reappeared clearly, Xiaoning was still the same gentle Xiaoning. She comforted him repeatedly, urging him to calm down. "What you just saw and heard were all illusions created by the demon." Zui Yunqing panted, murmuring in disbelief. Just then, the young man spoke up to explain, yes, while you were gathering firewood, this young lady and I both fell into an illusion. Zhuai Yunqing turned his head in a daze. He heard the young man continue. We had just regained our senses when you returned and said those strange things. Understanding the situation, he stared blankly into space, thinking, so those heartless words just now were all fake. He immediately asked, wait, master, were you also under an illusion? What did you see? She turned her head away, dismissing it lightly. Nothing. It's not worth mentioning. Then, tightening the reins and preparing to depart, she said, the demon's illusions are much stronger than before. We should find a place to rest for the night and continue our journey tomorrow. He obediently replied, yes, I'll listen to master. The woodcutter said gratefully, you two are my lifesavers. My home is not far from the village. Why don't you stay in my house tonight? Helping the young man onto the horse, he thought, there are no inns nearby, and this brother's leg is injured. It seems we have to take him home. She had the same thought and instructed Zhuai Yunqing, help him onto the horse. We'll stay at his house tonight. Zhuai Yunqing helped the man onto the horse, his mind racing. Master called me Yunqing. She must not be angry, right? Fortunately, it wasn't easy to get this far with Master. I can't let my previous efforts go to waste. He breathed a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, deep in the valley, in a simple hut, the young man, Zhu Yunchang, encountered a slight problem and explained awkwardly, there are only 2 beds in the house. This gentleman can squeeze in with me, and you, miss, can share a bed with my mother. How about that? A pause hung in the air. She replied, somewhat embarrassed, don't trouble yourselves. We can sleep on the floor. But the woodcutter firmly disagreed. I can't let my lifesavers sleep on the floor. Absolutely not. He then suggested, how about I sleep on the floor with this gentleman? The woodcutter immediately nodded. Good, it's settled then. The night was as dark as ink. Under the moonlight, Shouting finally closed her eyes for a nap, but her nerves remained taut. Suddenly, she opened her eyes, her hands instinctively gripping her sword, ready to strike. She sat up abruptly, shouting, immobilization spell. Who's there? Zhu Yinchang calmly replied, it's me, master. He put on a pitiful expression and pleaded, Master, can I sleep with you? Shouting couldn't believe her ears. What? He immediately put on a puppy dog look, whining, the bed is too small, the floor is cold, my wound has reopened, and I have a fever. Feel it, he insisted. My forehead is burning up. She looked him up and down, her face full of suspicion. Finally, she relented. No need to touch. You sleep on the very edge, each of us on one side. Don't cross the line. He replied triumphantly. Okay, thank you, master. The two lay down, the atmosphere slightly awkward. Suddenly, he turned his head and called out, Master. Seeing she didn't respond, a flicker of disappointment crossed Zui Yunqing's eyes. His fingers trembling slightly, he stealthily pulled a strand of her hair, sniffing it repeatedly like a little thief. She was annoyed, secretly vowing, if he dares to try anything funny again, I will. But he simply hugged her and fell asleep peacefully. Shouting's cheeks flushed crimson. She was completely at a loss. She lay on her side, gathering spiritual energy in her palm. She looked up angrily, warning the person behind her. Zhu Yunchang, show some respect. You little brat. As your master, I'm warning you for the last time. Let go. Zui Yunqing, as if he hadn't heard, continued to nuzzle into her arms, whining, Master, tomorrow is my 14th birthday. Can you come out of seclusion and celebrate with me? Hearing his rambling, she froze subconsciously. 14th birthday. On the small bed, she gently turned to face him, her slender, white hand reaching up to touch Zui Yunqing's forehead, asking in surprise, so hot. Are you starting to talk nonsense? She patted his hand gently, coaxing softly, let go of my hand. I'll heal your injuries. But after a while, he remained motionless. He showed no reaction at all. She sighed helplessly and placed her hand on his chest, circulating her spiritual energy. A golden light emanated from her palm. She thought, forget it, I'll heal him first. She reached out again and touched his forehead, finding that his temperature had gone down, a feeling of satisfaction welling up within her. When she finished, his fever had subsided. Her eyes were drooping with sleepiness. They lay there, quietly embracing, asleep on the small bed. Zui Yunqing's eyelids fluttered, his eyes slowly and gently opening. Rewinding to a stick of incense earlier, Zui Yunqing, ignoring the cold, stood outside in his single layer of clothing, letting the wind buffet him. He thought to himself with satisfaction, the night is deep, the wind is cold. Half an hour in this wind should be enough to catch a chill. Then he unwrapped the bandages from his arm, calculating the wound needs to be exposed too, so Master will feel sorry for me. Contentedly, he pulled her into his arms, thinking being able to share a bed with Master, braving the cold wind, was definitely worth it. The next morning, outside the inn, the young man bid farewell to Shouting and Zhu Yunchang with a hint of reluctance. Benefactors, are you leaving so early? Shouting replied politely. The sooner the demons are eradicated, the better. We won't trouble you any further. Just then, a white-haired old woman suddenly emerged, stopping them. Hey, wait. Holding a set of bright red clothes, she said with a smile, Young lady, your clothes are torn like this. Put these on. They're clean, don't worry. Shouting obediently stepped forward. Thank you, Grandma. The old woman beamed, chuckling happily. After Shouting had changed and tidied herself, the old woman froze. Her expression suddenly turned serious. Pointing at Shouting, she said, You're wearing this color? Shouting stood there, bewildered. The old woman continued, I remember now. You're that swindler who came to the village 2 years ago to exorcise demons. Shouting's heart skipped a beat. A swindler. A sense of existential crisis washed over her. Seeing the old woman's agitation, the young man quickly intervened. Mother, what are you talking about? She saved me yesterday. Don't talk nonsense. But the old woman was insistent. I'm not talking nonsense. She really came here 2 years ago. I even remember her name was Shouting. Recalling the hazy scene from that night, the old woman continued. She came alone then, claiming to be very skilled at exorcising demons. She then remembered the chaos Shouting had caused and continued to complain, but she didn't even recognize her own magical tool and almost killed young Yang from the village. Before leaving, she even said some strange things. The old woman grew increasingly flustered, stammering, It really wasn't my fault. I have to go now. I'm sorry. After listening, Shouting stroked her chin, a puzzled look on her face. What's going on? Lost in thought, she subconsciously rubbed her chin. I've never heard that before. Even if I lost my memory, I wouldn't say things like that. There must be another reason. From afar, Zhu Yunchang saw her expression and actions and thought. Master's expression. She's starting to suspect her memory loss. He narrowed his eyes, pondering. I did see that Shouting 2 years ago. Thinking about it now, it is rather suspicious. He recalled her sitting on the bed, sighing dramatically, so bored without my phone. Or Shouting playing with mud like a child, praising, this mud is nice. I wonder what I should sculpt. Or her poking at the vegetables on her plate with chopsticks, complaining, I'm sick of eating this every day. I want KFC. He also remembered hiding behind a tree, watching Shouting and Luo Wenxiu being close, thinking, back then, I was so shocked that Master was so close to someone else that I overlooked all the clues. Recalling Shouting's various oddities, he realized, no wonder she always fell off. She was in seclusion for 5 years, yet she came out 2 years ago, and her personality changed right around then. A drastic change. He stroked his chin, lost in thought. Could it be? Finally, looking at her beautiful face, he came to a conclusion. Has Master been possessed? Zhu Yinchang pondered. Could it really be true? He recalled the differences between her behavior during the 2 time periods. Musing, has Master been possessed? Looking at Shouting's confused expression, he thought, she had him at me back then, so naturally, she wouldn't think of possession so quickly. Suddenly, his eyes darkened. Clenching his fists, he felt a pang of fear. If she finds out I lied to her, she might break off the engagement. With inexplicable confidence, he tightened his fists again, thinking resolutely, I must make Master realize she loves me as soon as possible. Finally, only the 2 of them remained in the village. The demons in this village were numerous and much stronger than before. Fighting side by side, they eliminated them one by one. Shouting warned him worriedly, the village is surrounded by demons, much stronger than before. Working together, Shouting directed, You're injured, don't push yourself. I'll cover you. They fought their way through the encircling demons. Once safe, she sheathed her sword and said, It's almost dark. The demons in the east, west, and south have been eliminated. Lightly brushing the dust from her face, she thought, only the northern demons remain now, and I hear they are quite powerful. Let's return to the village for food and rest, and we'll go there tomorrow morning. Zhu Yinchang obediently replied, Okay. With calm hearts, they rode onward, a lone horse heading towards the next battle. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind, Immortal Masters, startling both of them. Turning around, they saw the villagers waiting to greet them enthusiastically. Thank you, Immortal Masters, for eliminating the demons. Please come and eat. Stay at our house tonight. Immortal Master, I prepared new bedding for you. Immortal Master, please see if my child has any spiritual roots. could you take her as a disciple? The two were momentarily speechless. A group of elaborately dressed young women surrounded Zhu Yunchang. Immortal Master, please try this small pastry I made myself. And mine too. It would be my honor if Immortal Master would taste my cooking. Overwhelmed, Zhu Yunchang retreated, his eyes wide with alarm. No, thank you, no, I don't need any. Meanwhile, a group of strong men surrounded Xiaoning, constantly offering her food. She also declined with some effort. No, thank you. We brought our own rations. We really don't need anything. He quickly noticed the situation and looked over, thinking to himself, if I deliberately make Master jealous, will she understand her own feelings better? He immediately accepted the offerings from the young women, taking them cheerfully. Well then, I won't refuse your kindness. I'll try a little of both. Seeing his gentle demeanor, the young women squealed inwardly. Ah, he's so gentle. The Immortal Master is truly talented and handsome, a divine figure. One bold young woman invited, Immortal Master, stay at my house tonight. I'll make sure my father treats you well. He hesitated slightly at this, not refusing, but deferring to Xiaoning. I'll have to discuss this with my master. Hearing him mention her, Xiaoning froze. Seeing him so close to the village girls, she was displeased and glared at him. Zhuai Yunqing shook off the girl, clinging to him, and turned to Xiaoning. Master, look, she's unhappy. Xiaoning pushed the decision back to him. Decide for yourself. Realizing her displeasure, he mouthed the words, Master is jealous, with a happy expression. Hearing this, she immediately denied it, turning her face away stubbornly. Don't be ridiculous. Seeing her unhappiness because of him, a flicker of joy crossed his eyes, and he smiled secretly. Satisfied, he feigned impatience, shaking off the girl and saying coldly, Excuse me, my master doesn't like crowds. We have to go now. Goodbye. They walked away amidst the villagers' chatter, Xiaoning unconsciously quickening her pace. Zhuai Yunqing, his face beaming, turned to her cheerfully. Master, you weren't jealous just now, were you? After I refused them, your steps became lighter. She closed her eyes, turning her face away with a cold denial. I said I wasn't. Like a peacock displaying its feathers, Zhuai Yunqing pressed on. Really? Or are you just unwilling to admit it? Xiaoning, exasperated, continued to deny it. No. The peacock transformed into a puppy, wagging its tail at her side. Think about it again. Xiaoning's face flushed with anger. Shut up and go find a place to make camp. He finally obeyed, turning to leave. Yes, this disciple will go right away. Xiaoning quietly drew her sword, gazing at her reflection in the polished blade. Looking into the jade-green eyes staring back, she wondered, was I truly unhappy just now? Looking at Zhu Yunchang's handsome figure, she recalled the events of the past few days. He said he had a fever last night. That's why I agreed to share a bed with him. Remembering the scene of them lying together that night, she recalled him feverish and delirious, clinging to her embrace, unable to let go. She pursed her lips in thought, remembering her illusion of the bridal chamber. That time, because of the demons, I fell into an illusion, and unexpectedly, the image she saw was of a slender hand gently lifting her red veil. From her perspective, Zhu Yunchang leaned closer beneath the veil, whispering tenderly, Master, I've finally waited for this day. So that day, in the illusion, before Zhu Yunchang and Xiaoning, the disciples knelt in unison, their voices rising together. Congratulations on the ascension of the sect leader. He rose from the ornate dragon throne, waved his hand, and said, There's no need for formalities. I don't want to waste time with pleasantries either. There's just one thing I've been holding in my heart for a long time that I want to ask Master. Hearing her name, she asked, bewildered, what do you want to ask? He then spoke without hesitation, Master, I am now the sect leader, just as you wished. Everything in the sect is under my control, and from now on, every decision rests with you. So, can you marry me now? He smiled tenderly, unabashedly breaking the rules in front of all the immortals. She didn't care about that at all. She was just completely stunned, her wide eyes staring blankly, not knowing how to react. She turned her head and said seriously, There are rules in the sect. Master and disciple cannot marry, nor can they become Tao companions. But this small matter couldn't stop him at all. As long as she nodded, 9 bridal palanquins could set off immediately. Zhu Yunchang said casually, I'm the sect leader now. I make the rules. She was still hesitating, but that was enough. He suddenly took her hand. Since you didn't refuse, I'll take that as a yes. And so, the entire hall was decorated with lanterns and colorful decorations, red lanterns hanging high, and the joyous news spread far and wide. First, the wedding ceremony. until both of them were dressed in wedding attire. They bowed to each other as husband and wife, and finally entered the bridal chamber. Two large double happiness characters were pasted on the door of the bridal chamber, awaiting the blissful wedding night. Zhu Yinchang stood before her. He slowly lifted her red veil and softly called, "Master." Gazing at her beauty, he blurted out, "I finally waited for this day." The atmosphere was just right, and the two embraced each other affectionately. He leaned down and kissed her, their legs entwined. What followed happened naturally. She lay on the bed, he half on top of her, gently removing her outer robe, revealing her slender shoulders and thin undergarments. Then her earrings. He also began to undress, everything flowing naturally, the enchanting night just beginning. But as she was immersed in the dream, she suddenly realized something was wrong. Wait, this isn't right. It shouldn't be like this. The door was slightly ajar, and the sound of running water could faintly be heard. I froze. Then I came back to my senses and pushed him away. He saw the bride, was distracted, and asked in confusion. My memory is frozen on his expression at that moment. Thinking about it now, I can't help but shiver and slap my forehead in frustration. In the illusion, my expression must have made him suspicious. Zhu Yinchang noticed my strangeness and asked curiously, "Master, what are you thinking about? Why is your face so red?" I prevaricated, it's a little hot. He seemed to have thought of something and teased excitedly, "Are you shy now because you were jealous before?" I coldly poured cold water on him. "Don't overthink it. I wouldn't be jealous of you." I widened my eyes and thought, that's right, he's the child I raised, my family, a junior. How could I have those kinds of feelings? A distant memory flashed through my mind. Shouting bit her lip, her expression uneasy. I'm just deceiving myself, aren't I? I agreed to marry him, but it was just a stopgap measure. I just didn't expect that years of effort would be wasted. After walking for a while, the sky gradually darkened, and I said, "Let's find a place to rest." He immediately replied, "There's an abandoned house not far ahead. I've already tidied it up." I quickly agreed, "Good. Then let's hurry over there, eat something, and rest." He walked slowly behind me, protecting me, sighing inwardly. Master is so resistant. I can't push her too hard. It's better to tease her more and wait for her to figure out herself. Arriving at the location, the two warmed themselves by the newly lit fire innate. He looked at the injury on his hand, secretly thinking, the wound hasn't healed yet, but if used well. So he acted coquettishly. "Master, this wound seems to be stuck to my clothes. I need to take them off to bandage it properly, but my hand hurts too much to lift. Can you help me take off my clothes?" But all that remained in my mind were the three words, "take off clothes." The image reappeared, and I immediately refused. No. Zhu Yinchang asked in confusion, "Why not? Didn't Master help me change my clothes countless times before? Why not today?" I said firmly, "No reason, just no." He started teasing again. If Master doesn't help her disciple, then this disciple will suspect Master is being shy. I felt guilty and had to agree. "Don't talk nonsense, I'll help you." Night fell. In the dilapidated house, Shouting lit a fire for warmth and began to help Zhu Yunchang undress. She stared at his body for a long time, her heart beating faster, her cheeks flushed, thinking to herself, seeing him at such close proximity, Zhu Yunchang is no longer the thin and withdrawn youth he once was. She remained silent, not saying a word. Finally, she mustered her courage, steadied her breathing, and continued to undress Zhu Yunchang. She heard him softly say, "Master, if you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to force yourself." She thought he would refuse, but instead he caught her wrist, placed her hand on his chest, and said, "Then touch here." Her face flushed even deeper. He pressed her hand firmly against his chest, smiling. "It's usually quite soft, but if you apply a little pressure." He increased the pressure of her hand and continued, "It becomes hard." Her face was practically burning. She abruptly sat up, one hand grabbing his lapel, the other still held by him. "Let go of my clothes," she said. As she pulled, her hand brushed against his wound, tearing it open and drawing blood. He immediately seized the opportunity to feign weakness, pathetically grabbing her hand and crying out, "Ah!" Shouting froze, immediately sitting down to examine the wound, anxiously asking, "Are you all right?" Master didn't mean to. Hearing the concern in his beloved's voice, he continued to feign distress. "No, it hurts so much." She panicked. I'll bandage it for you right now. He immediately took the opportunity to pathetically plead, I want Master to hug me and comfort me so that this disciple can endure the pain while you bandage it. Suddenly, his gaze sharpened like a blade. He looked behind her. Unaware, she continued to scold him. Stop messing around. How old are you? Suddenly, he reached out and tightly gripped her shoulders. Pulling her into his arms, he struck out at the dark shadow. His hands surged with spiritual energy. He held her tightly, his face tense and alert. Master, be careful, he warned, striking out without hesitation. The ghostly green aura dispersed, but quickly began to coalesce again. Knowing he was outmatched, he immediately turned and fled. She shouted after him, don't even think about running. She turned to urge Zhu Yunchang, hurry, chase after him, completely unaware that she had jostled his wound again. He gasped like a fish out of water. Only then did she react, saying, all right, I'll stop moving. You can slowly take your hand away. He innocently replied, okay, my hand is a bit stuck. She gave him a sharp look, her gaze like a knife. He tried to argue, it really is stuck. Seeing her disbelief, he mumbled, fine, I'll take it off myself. As dusk settled, shadows lengthened, leaves rustled in the wind, and the atmosphere grew tense. She walked ahead, saying decisively, he can't have gotten far, losing that much blood. He obediently followed behind. Like an obedient puppy, he held the torch aloft, searching around. The blood trail ends here, he said. He must be hiding nearby. She replied without hesitation, I'll use my divine sense to investigate. Wait a moment. Her slender hands began to form seals. As she formed the seals before her chest, the surroundings suddenly became eerily quiet. A moment later, her blue-green eyes slowly opened. Xiaoning's face was filled with shock. Strange, I can't sense my own aura. He was also surprised. She pointed ahead and commanded, this way. Let's go and see. The two walked towards the mysterious formation. She carefully examined the formation on the ground, thinking, this is a formation I set up. He shone the torch on it. It does look like one of our Diantong Sect formations. She extended her hand and channeled her spiritual energy. As expected, her energy resonated with the formation. She looked at her palm in confusion. My spiritual energy is resonating. It really is a formation I set up, but I have no memory of it. It must be dark magic left over from when I lost my memory. Zhu Yinchang stroked his chin thoughtfully. It's a formation left by the fake Xiaoning. I wonder if Master has noticed any flaws. He was a little worried and suggested, Master, let's chase after that dark magic user first and then return. Suddenly, she shouted, wait. She stopped, her expression grave. The sole imprint on this spiritual formation. That isn't mine. Xiaoning began to piece things together. Although this formation is full of flaws, it's definitely a high-level formation. Ordinary auras come from the caster's body, but high-level formations are connected to the caster's soul. She frowned and thought, the aura is mine, but the soul imprint belongs to someone else. This can only mean one thing. He saw the look on her face as she neared the truth, his eyes widening and cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. Oh no, she's going to discover that I'm an imposter. Xiaoning earnestly explained to Zhu Yunchang, Yunchang, your cultivation level isn't low. You can see this, which proves this high-level formation was stolen, not because your master lost their memory. Hearing her words, his thoughts drifted. What does Master mean by telling me this? Does she regret our engagement? A mocking voice came from afar. Well, if it isn't our two experts. The humanoid monster covered its mouth and laughed. I just had that black mist fellow invite you over, and you've already arrived. Xiaoning watched him warily, remaining on guard. A humanoid monster. She observed the monster carefully for a moment, then speculated, no, he has a human aura. He must have taken over a man's body. She summoned a golden orb of light and warned sternly, you're a monster, yet you dare to possess a human body and appear before us so brazenly. Hearing her words, he found it particularly amusing and burst into laughter. Oh dear, I'm so scared. Don't come any closer, or I'll... His expression turned cold, and he warned with a hint of killing intent, kill you, just like I killed everyone in Tongsun village. Zhu Yunchang ignited a small ball of magical power and questioned, aren't you overestimating yourself? He glared at the monster and warned, just you. You'd be hard-pressed to kill even one person in the village, let alone everyone. We haven't killed you yet. The monster in front was enraged and retorted, you dare underestimate me. He triumphantly raised his hand and summoned spiritual energy, explaining arrogantly, remember the illusion before. That was a spiritual power test I set for cultivators. You two broke through the illusion quickly, which means your spiritual power is strong. He licked his lips greedily. But I crave your spiritual power. He summoned dark night magic and said with self-satisfaction, so while you were gone, I covered the entire Tongsuan village with an illusion. He looked at the black hole in front of him and threatened, if you give me your spiritual power, I'll let them go. If you resist, he triumphantly raised his fist to the black hole, intending to punch it, and shouted, I'll get angry and trap them in the illusion forever. Hearing this, he subconsciously withdrew his spiritual power slowly. She spoke calmly, her tone leisurely. All right. In the dark, beautiful forest, she stepped forward and compromised. I'm willing to give you my spiritual power. Hearing her words, he cried out worriedly, Master. The monster's heart exploded like fireworks. Excellent, come here. I can't wait. Seeing this, Zhu Yunchang clicked his tongue in annoyance. Just try it. He rushed forward without hesitation, charging straight ahead. He impatiently stood in the center of the formation, reaching out to feel the spiritual power being sucked away. Ugh. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the monster in front of him. Seeing him rush forward like that, she felt uneasy. Yunchang. Ugh. The monster continued to devour his spiritual power, making ugh sounds. Such strong spiritual power. Shouting stood behind, her brow furrowed, her heart filled with panic. What do I do? I'm watching Yunchang walk to his death. She stared nervously at his back, thinking, am I supposed to abandon everyone in Shangshan village? Her shoulders trembled slightly as she clenched her fists, making a difficult decision. No, I can't abandon them. I have to think of a better way. I must. The monster's formation began to reverse, and its eyes widened in shock. She was also surprised, wondering what's going on. Yunchang is actually absorbing its demonic energy. The monster struggled desperately, but it couldn't pull its hand back. The vortex on its hand was spinning towards itself, making it scream in terror. No, let me go. Let me go. Zhu Yunchang was covered in sweat, managing a faint smile. He looked at the monster with difficulty, sweat soaking his entire body, and said regretfully, still didn't make it in time. The monster completely broke down and cursed. Damn it, this body is useless. He slapped himself hard. Immediately afterward, it shed its skin and escaped. Its reflection in a mirror showed it struggling. A mysterious person sat on a throne and laughed triumphantly. He's finally started absorbing demonic energy. The day I return home isn't far off. A slight smile played on his lips. Dear brother. He gritted his teeth and knelt on the ground. Shouning's voice rang out, Yunchang. She ran over anxiously and asked, what's wrong? Suddenly, he shouted to stop her, don't come any closer. She widened her eyes in surprise. At this moment, the demonic energy within Zhu Yunchang was in chaos, but he still tried to explain, the demonic energy I just absorbed is strange. Maybe. He gritted his teeth, his face covered in sweat, and said loudly, I can't suppress it. As soon as he finished speaking, countless black, demonic energies flew towards him, his whole body glowing. Shouting, standing below, could only shield her face with her hands. His clothes were torn, and Zhu Yunchang painfully covered half his face with his hand. Shouting, standing to the side, was also affected by the force. Her expression panicked. Her shoulder was slightly injured, and she gasped for breath. Suddenly, a voice rang out, accompanied by a fragrant smell, making her jaw drop in astonishment. Is Yinxing being controlled by his inner demons again? I really can't wait any longer. His muscles bulged, his eyes bloodshot, and he said, I'm going to swallow you whole. Seeing his crazed appearance, she frowned, thinking, this is bad. Is his mind being controlled by demonic energy again? She quickly calmed herself and reminded him, Zhu Yunchang, quickly restrain your aura, focus your mind, and return to normal. He changed again, his entire body emitting black, demonic energy. He approached her, caressed her face, and whispered, your sin is intoxicating. He even sniffed her strangely. But this mouth is too noisy. A cold glint flashed in Zhu Yunchang's eyes, and he said coldly, why don't I eat it first? Her face flushed red. Shouting clenched her fists in anger, golden spiritual power emerging. She turned her face away in shame, thinking, he can't hear these words anymore. I have to use the powerful Kantai-jo to wake him up. She recalled the painful way he coughed up blood. Images of sadness and pain flashed before her eyes. The spiritual power in her hands dissipated. She stopped her movements. This is wrong. He's already lost control. The Kantai-jo will only stimulate pain and increase his violence. Shouting immediately softened her expression and subconsciously reached out to caress his face. Yunchang. Her change surprised him greatly. She clasped Zhu Yunchang's face with both hands and said, "Look into my eyes. You can control this demonic energy. You would never hurt me, right?" As soon as she finished speaking, his subconsciousness was suddenly awakened, and he stammered, Then he clutched his head in pain and said, "No, I can't control it. I can't control it." She anxiously embraced him. Yunchang. Shouting continued to soothe him. "Do you trust me?" His eyes were still blood red, but there was a hint of clarity. She reached out to him. She called out gently as usual, "Come here, come, master." She softly guided him. "I can use my spiritual power to help you stabilize the demonic energy. Don't resist, okay?" He gradually regained his senses, staring at her Tridi. Zhu Yunchang frowned with worry, but finally reached out to shouting, "Okay." She embraced him in a master's embrace, and in an instant, the demonic energy within him gradually subsided. After a moment, she asked, "Are you feeling better now?" He gazed at her affectionately and softly replied, Suddenly, Zhu Yunchang thought anxiously, "Master must have discovered that I'm a high-level demon just now. How should I explain it to her?" Shouting also fell into deep thought. Yunchang was actually able to suppress the humanoid monster just now. He must be a high-level demon. But I had already guessed this, since I've already accepted him as my disciple. There's no benefit in revealing his identity now. He hesitated and began, "Master, just now Before he could finish, she interrupted him. "There's no need." She turned and left, but not without reminding him, "Don't tell anyone about what happened today. Just pretend it never happened." Zhu Yunchang touched his chest and quickly replied, "Okay." A mischievous thought popped into his mind. As expected, Master still loves me. Meanwhile, at Diantong's Sect, Luo Wenxiu had just finished bathing and sighed in relief. "Now that my leg is healed, I can finally take a proper bath." His expression was gloomy as he secretly plotted. It's time to find a way to make Junior Sister see Zhu Yunchang's true colors. Suddenly, he noticed something unusual on the table. Looking at the neatly arranged items, he couldn't help but be curious. "What is this?" Luo Wenxiu placed his hand on the table, his gaze wandering to the door. "The door is closed, and I didn't hear anything just now. Is there such a skilled person in Diantong's Sect?" He picked up the letter, thinking, what's written on it? He saw a line of neatly written words. "This is a bottle of demonic powder. I hope it's useful to you." He frowned in surprise. Demon core powder. Luo Wenxiu gripped the letter tightly, staring suspiciously at the bottle. It's impossible that someone from Diantong's Sect sent this. Who is this? How do they know I needed this? He quickly calmed down, thinking, no matter who it is, since they sent such a valuable item, I can't waste it. He carefully examined the bottle and came up with a vicious idea. If I sprinkle this in Zhu Yunchang's secret chamber, I can prove he's colluding with demons. Luo Wenxiu then let out a burst of maniacal laughter. It would be best if Junior Sister turns against him. At worst, according to Sect rules, he'll be crippled. The next morning, at the Trade Caravan's Inn, Zhu Yunchang and Shouting led their horses out. She enthusiastically told him, "I'm going to meet with the elders later to report that the demonic presence on Mount Zhongshan has grown stronger. Your spiritual energy is still unstable, so you should return to Ningxian Pavilion to meditate and recuperate." He suddenly stopped her. "But I don't want to leave Master, not even for a moment." She tried to persuade him, You can't be like this." Just then, Zatsi Ji and several elders appeared. He said triumphantly, "Yesterday, I found demonic core powder in Zhu Yunchang's residence. After discussing it, the three elders believe he is highly likely colluding with demons." He pointed at Zhu Yunchang and ordered, "Immediately come with me to the Hall of Discipline for interrogation." Both of them exclaimed in surprise. "What?" Shouting angrily retorted, "Sect leader, even if we have our differences, you shouldn't frame Yunchang like this." He said viciously, "Nonsense. I am upright and honorable. Eldest elder, you should just escort him there. I don't want to waste my breath on him." The eldest elder responded and reached out his hand, yes. A sword instantly appeared, pointed directly at the two of them. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Shouting frowned, thinking, there are plenty of ways to frame someone. Looks like I need to change my approach. She stepped in front of Zhu Yunchang and calmly admitted, "Eldest elder, please wait. That demonic core powder was actually left by me." Luo Wenxiu gritted his teeth upon hearing this, clenching his fists in anger. What? That was clearly my demonic core powder. With the truth still unclear, not only did his junior sister not suspect Zhu Yunchang, but she even lied to protect him. Zotzi Ji asked with a smug smile, "You left it. Do you know what you're saying?" He rejoiced inwardly. "Oh, I only intended to punish the disciple, but she delivered herself to me." Shouting reiterated, "I said it was me." She crossed her arms and slowly explained, "It was material I used to study demons. At most, it's a violation of storage regulations, right?" The eldest elder furrowed his brow in thought. Although the demonic core powder was indeed found in Zhu Yunchang's secret chamber, there's no direct evidence proving his collusion with demons yet. Since Shouting insists it was hers, we can only handle it this way. He turned to Zotzi Ji and said, "Sect leader, if it's a violation of storage regulations, according to sect rules, the item should be confiscated and the person should be confined for a month." Zotzi Ji jumped in frustration, shouting, "What? Just 1 month of confinement?" She's clearly trying to divert attention. The eldest elder whispered in his ear, "Further investigation will be a waste of effort. Listen to me, let's punish her this way." He reluctantly ordered, Fine. Then you'll be confined for a month. As for your disciple, he must stay with you until the matter is cleared up." Zhu Yunchang took the opportunity to put his arm around her waist, looking at her with deep affection. "Thank you, master." Shouning's cheeks flushed, and she was momentarily speechless. Then she struggled to push him away. "What are you doing? Let go." The eldest elder and the others haven't left yet. Zhu Yunchang teased slyly. "So, master means I can do as I please once they're gone." Her face turned crimson with anger. "Don't twist my words." Zotzi Ji and the others also looked displeased, scoffing, shameless. He suddenly frowned and nudged Luo Wenxiu with his elbow. "I sympathize with you." Luo Wenxiu seethed inwardly, clenching his fists, determined not to give up. Finally, their residence was sealed off by other disciples. Shouting slumped down, completely drained of energy. She frowned, her expression desolate, her long hair swaying in the wind. Zhu Yunchang walked over and took her arm. He asked with concern, "Master, are you upset about being confined?" He put on a relaxed air and comforted her. "Don't worry, I'll definitely investigate the demonic core powder and give you an explanation." Shouting ignored him and pulled her hand away. "Let go of me." But he was shameless and continued to play with her fingers. Zhu Yunchang unhesitatingly licked her fingertip. "We still have many things to do together in the future, so master needs to get used to it slowly." Shouting stood there, completely bewildered by him. She decisively withdrew her hand. He stroked his chin, teasing, "TSK, it's just the two of us here. Why is master still so shy?" She looked away, tried to explain, "It's not shyness." Shouting closed her eyes, her face filled with helplessness. She parted her lips slightly and softly called, "Yunchang." Then, with a resolute expression, she turned to him and said, "Let's break off our engagement." Zhu Yunchang's face changed drastically. He asked in a panic, "What?" She clenched her fists and firmly explained, "You know I was possessed. The person you were with wasn't me. The Shouting you once loved is long gone. So there's no need for us to continue this engagement." As soon as she finished speaking, he became dejected. His lips trembled slightly, and he stammered, unable to speak. "Master, do you mean? You don't want me anymore?" Zhu Yunchang, like a child on the verge of tears, slowly took a few steps forward. He stubbornly refused to let go. "No, you can't leave me." Zhu Yunchang grabbed her arm frantically and said urgently, "Master, listen to me." He cried out helplessly, "You have to believe me. I really don't like that fake master at all." She asked doubtfully, "Not at all. Didn't you say you were very close before?" She coldly withdrew her hand, her eyes full of sorrow. "I'm not her. There's no need for you to deceive yourself anymore." He frowned and retorted, "Deceive myself? Then try taking out the goo worm and see if its wings are still there." A flicker of hesitation flashed across Shouning's eyes. In the end, she listened to him. She quickly reached out and carefully took out the goo worm to examine it. In an instant, a black aura surged forth. Shouting gasped, "How could this be?" She knew very well that this heart-linking goo represented the mutual understanding between two people. If they were truly sincere, the goo worm's wings would never disappear. "What's going on?" This made Zhu Yunchang even more smug. He said, "The heart-linking goo has already proven my feelings for you, master. So the problem isn't that I mistook someone else for you." He added, added, moreover, the goo worm only grows wings if the person who cast the goo drinks the other person's blood. He patted his chest and assured her, so, Master, I really never approached that fake, nor did I have those kinds of thoughts. Everything I said was to trick you, to make you take responsibility for me. Hearing this, Shouting frowned and scolded, You're so bold. You even dared to trick your own master. Zhu Yunchang anxiously took a step forward, caressed her face, and frankly admitted, Yes, I'm bold. I did deceive you. It's all my fault. He lowered his voice. You can punish me however you want, hit me, scold me, anything, but please don't break off our engagement, okay? She firmly pulled her hand back and said, So you're saying that the person you imprisoned before was the fake Shouting? She pressed on, You didn't have any feelings for the fake Shouting, and you only started liking me now. Hearing this, a thoughtful look flashed across his eyes. Zhu Yunchang covered his face and said, looking perplexed, Master, why don't you rethink what happened when I locked you up? He recalled the time he brought snacks to her room. Thinking jealously, Master has been getting too close to Luo Wenxiu lately. I need to remind her. He quickly walked into the room, staring intently at Shouting sitting in front of him. Unexpectedly, she was also startled by him. Looking at the tall, handsome young man with a fresh aura in front of her, she blurted out, Yinchang, you've grown so much. Hearing this, he was a little confused. Why is Master acting so strange today? But in just a moment, Zhu Yunchang forced himself to calm down. Forget it, I can't overthink it. He said, I'm warning you one last time, Master. Luo Wenxiu is not a good person. You'd better stay away from him. She suddenly became gentle, reaching out to caress his cheek. Why are you saying that about your second senior brother? Has he been bullying you lately? His heart churned. Master hasn't touched me in 2 years. What's going on today? Shouting withdrew her hand somewhat shyly. Right, I almost forgot. You're all grown up now. I can't treat you like a child anymore. Zhu Yunchang's mind started racing again, thinking bitterly, sigh, why does Master have to tease me right when I'm about to give up? He clenched his fists angrily, a mischievous idea flashing through his mind. No, I've changed my mind. I must succeed tonight. I'll give her some muscle relaxant. Back in the present, he asked, Shouting, Master, if I'm not mistaken, you were possessed back then, right? She nodded frankly. Yes, that's right. At this point, her expression became heavy as she recalled the past. I was cultivating when I suddenly broke through a bottleneck. When I woke up, I found myself locked in a quiet room. She paused, pondering, thinking about it now. The possessor must have just returned to the quiet room. I had just been possessed then, so I thought I had just come out of seclusion. Zhu Yinchang interjected, See. He cornered her by the door and began to explain. At the time, I didn't realize that Master was a fake, but I always felt like Master was two different people. He sincerely confessed, The only one I love is you, Master. Shouting's eyes widened in surprise. Trying to remain composed, she thought, Yinchang actually likes me this much. She hesitantly clenched her fists, but she still told him coldly and firmly, Let's break off the engagement. Zhu Yinchang looked as if he'd been struck, his eyes brimming with tears. Why? He said agitatedly, I've already explained everything clearly. The only person I truly love is Master. Unable to accept this, he cried out, Why do you still want to break off the engagement? Why are you doing this to me? Shouting sorrowfully averted her gaze, not immediately answering. Why? She murmured to herself, then frowned as she answered her own question. Because Shouting recalled the earlier scenario, their 8-year master-disciple relationship. From the moment I picked you up, I had other plans. I waited until I came out of seclusion and everyone discovered we were living together before I brought up the marriage. That's because I didn't know how deep your feelings for me were. I wanted to appease you first, thinking you would quickly let go of your obsession and our master-disciple relationship could return to how it was before, and then I could continue my plan to control the sect. But now I know how deep your feelings for me are. How can I continue? Especially since you're so adamant about only liking me. Zhu Yunchang's affection is so fervent. How can my petty schemes tarnish it? Countless memories intertwined, and she took all the blame upon herself. For 8 years, we've been together day and night. I watched you grow, hoping you would become the sect leader as I wished, but also hoping you would have a happy and fulfilling life, that you wouldn't be truly abandoned, that you wouldn't have to spend the rest of your life with someone like me who would use you. After her long confession, Shouting took a deep breath and said frankly, Yin Chang, you asked me why I want to break off the engagement. It's simple. He was slightly taken aback. She continued, I don't have a shred of affection for you in my heart, and I don't want you to have come into this world for me. He was momentarily at a loss for words, his face filled with disappointment. He pressed his lips tightly together. Zhu Yinchang tried to argue, Master, you actually do like me, you just haven't realized it yet. She immediately interrupted him, firmly stating, that's your misconception. The reason I've been good to you is that I wanted to use you. Unlike the hysterics she had imagined, he accepted it with unusual calmness. All right. Then he slowly reached out and took her hand, softly saying, even if Master doesn't like me at all, it's okay. But Master has already told the elders about our engagement. Breaking it off now will definitely make us a laughingstock. She exclaimed in shock, quickly trying to explain, although I don't want to be ridiculed, but he gently interrupted her, resting his head on her hand, and said, but I'm willing to spend my whole life by Master's side. Even if you never like me, I'm willing. Hearing these words, an unconcealable confusion appeared on her face. Shouting blushed and retorted, do you know what these words mean? Marrying someone who doesn't like you. You'll definitely regret it later. He immediately said firmly, I won't regret it. Master, just treat me as your pawn. After saying this, he gently kissed the back of her hand. Such smooth talk, it's like being sold and then helping the seller count the money. Zhu Yunchang even stooped so low as to be willing to be used by her, binding himself to her with marriage, allowing her to command him, as long as she promised never to let him go. Unbelievable. This guy is even playing the victim. Otherwise, I really don't know how I'll live. Sigh so dramatic. She froze for a moment, closing her eyes to calm herself, thinking, I didn't expect him to go to such lengths to keep me. If I insist on breaking off the engagement, he really is putting everything on the line. So her heart softened, and she agreed, forget it. You can't see through it now, and I won't force you anymore. But if you regret it later, you won't be able to break off the engagement again. Hearing this, he was so happy he practically wagged his tail. Zhu Yinchang immediately declared, then as long as I don't regret it, Master won't leave me, right? Master is the best. He then happily hugged her. She awkwardly interrupted his pleasant dream. Don't get too happy too soon. If you dare to lie to me, I will never forgive you. He immediately promised, I swear, I will never lie to Master again. Oh, brother. We'll talk about it then. If there's a next time, this disciple will definitely listen to Master's arrangements. He spoke obediently, but inwardly blamed himself for being too careless, thinking, I must hide my secrets better so that Master will never discover them. Same old tricks. The forest was filled with decaying greenery, the gloomy scene made even more eerie by some mysterious formation. The last time I gave Luo Wenxio the spirit root enhancement powder, it didn't work. This time it has to be stronger. Oh no. As expected, something happened. Two auras surged in at the same time. The disciples' eyes widened in shock, their expressions blank. They carefully felt the surge of blood and spiritual energy throughout their bodies, thinking to themselves, is this the body of a cultivator? One of them moved their limbs, adapting to the new body, and said, it's indeed much more agile than an ordinary person's. The spellcaster finally spoke, his voice full of satisfaction, and said respectfully, thank you for granting us these two bodies. From now on, we can absorb the spiritual energy within the sect, and our demonic cultivation will surely advance rapidly. Chunwei stood opposite them with his arms crossed, replying indifferently, this wasn't free. You understand. He raised a finger, hinting, to repay me, you have to do something for me. What is it? They immediately asked. Chunwei then said, in a few days, you will expose your identities and be caught by the Diantong sect. Then you'll say you came here in collusion with Zhu Yunchang. Understand. Oh, hearing this plan, both of them were a little scared and tentatively asked, but wouldn't we be finished then? Chunwei quickly came up with a countermeasure, bargaining, don't worry, after it's done, I'll give you two even better bodies. If you don't agree, get out now, don't be an eyesore here. The two looked at each other for a long time, weighing their options, and finally agreed to the arrangement, respectfully cupping their hands and saying, we will definitely complete the mission. We'll pin it all on Zhu Yunchang and never let go. It seemed they were truly going all in this time. The scene changed to the main hall of the sect. Luo Wenxio was earnestly lecturing the disciples, explaining the principles of the unity of heaven and man, refining essence into qi, entering the void with utmost gentleness, and maintaining tranquility and sincerity. He appeared solemn, but his mind was somewhat agitated as he thought, Junior sister Ning trusts Zhu Yunchang so much. It seems that after his confinement ends, she will definitely investigate the demonic bone powder. Just in case, I should find a scapegoat in advance. Two disciples whispered below, Hey, isn't today the day that mysterious big shot told us to act? The other replied softly, It seems so. What are we waiting for? Let's expose ourselves. Luo Wenchio's eyes lit up as if he had heard something. After looking around, he walked over to the two disciples and scrutinized them carefully. How did news of demonic creatures reach the cultivation hall? Where did the information come from? He quickly locked onto the two most suspicious disciples in the class. It's them. I don't know their background, so I can't act rashly. I should report to the sect leader first. Thinking this, he closed his book and said to everyone with a smile, You all study by yourselves. Master will be back soon. After speaking, he walked out the door, full of spirit, thinking to himself, The scapegoats have delivered themselves to my door. The scene cut to Ningxin Pavilion, where Xiaoning was sitting dejectedly in a corner. Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and Zhu Yunchang walked in with his arms crossed, asking, Master, you've been sitting here drinking all morning. What's on your mind? She replied, listlessly, Nothing, just bored from confinement. He immediately sat down beside her and thoughtfully suggested, Then I'll tell you a story, guaranteed to cheer you up. She was taken aback and asked, Why are you sitting so close? Xiaoning shrank back a little and sat up straighter, reluctantly saying, Go ahead. Seeing this, he moved closer to her. Master, you can't hear clearly from so far away. Come closer. She pushed him away impatiently. I'm not deaf, she said somewhat irritably. Are you going to tell it or not? If not, I'm leaving. Zhu Yunchang quickly replied, Yes, I'll tell it. He said casually, Yesterday, when the disciple brought the meal, I gave him something and asked him to offer incense to Grandmaster this morning. This detail touched Xiaoning somewhat, and she asked, You knew today was my master's death anniversary. Zhu Yunchang boldly brought his face close to hers and replied, Of course I know. I remember everything Master cares about. After saying this, he released her arm. He confided in her like a friend. I also found out that the reason Master is so attached to the position of sect leader is because of the founding ancestor. Xiaoning didn't deny it, saying softly, That's right. Her gaze drifted into the distance, a trace of sorrow in her eyes. She recalled that when her master was alive, her greatest wish was for me to inherit the position of sect leader. Xiaoning choked up, I'm an orphan. It said that Master found me on a stormy day. Back then, she was still an innocent little girl, always following behind her master and asking, Master, are we roasting goose today? It was her master who raised her and taught her cultivation. She was not only the only female disciple in the sect, but also inherited her master's true teachings, becoming the heir. This was personally chosen by Master. Back in the present, she blankly picked up the wine pot. I can't repay her for anything. The only thing I can do is to constantly become stronger and never let her down. Unfortunately, before she could finish, she sighed in disappointment. Zhu Yunchang reminded her worriedly, Master, drinking on an empty stomach will make you drunk easily. Wait a moment, I'll get you some snacks. Xiaoning's cheeks flushed, and she refused with a slight slur. No need. She staggered her feet and mumbled, Even if I'm drunk, I won't. Her voice was full of determination. Forget the oath I made at Grandmaster's tomb. She puffed out her chest proudly and declared, Eliminate those good-for-nothings and take control of the sect. Watching her adorable demeanor, he stroked his chin, chuckling to himself, Looks like she's really drunk. Suddenly, he reached out and wrapped his arm around her waist. Then he comforted her earnestly, Master, don't worry. I will definitely help you achieve your wish. Hearing this, she asked happily like a child, Really? Then you? Unfortunately, before she could finish, she collapsed in his arms. So obedient. Zhu Yunchang's eyes were full of confidence. Master actually trusts me more than she realizes. He stroked her hair and said smugly, It's just that her heart is like a treasure chest. Locked up, he took advantage of her drunken state, leaned close to her face, and whispered, Anyway, my life already belongs to her. There's plenty of time. One day, I will find the key to open her heart. After an unknown amount of time, Xiaoning slowly sat up. Ugh, my head hurts. Only then did she suddenly realize that she was wearing a new set of clothes. She slowly recalled what had happened before, and Zhu Yunchang's voice echoed in her ears. Master, you were sitting on the veranda just now, and your outer robe was disheveled. This disciple helped you take it off. You should rest. She refused uncomfortably. You boy, what tricks are you trying to pull again? Suspecting he had ulterior motives. But he replied, this disciple wouldn't dare. Back in the present, she frowned in thought. So he really just took off my outer robe. He seems different now. Just then, Zhu Yunchang walked in and called, Master. You're awake. He immediately sat beside her and carefully scooped a spoonful of porridge. Mung bean porridge can cure hangovers, Master. Have some. Shouting looked at him, feeling slightly touched. He's locked up. He can't go out. He must have made this porridge himself. Then she glanced at the fragrant bowl of porridge in Zhu Yunchang's hand and thought, mung beans need to be soaked for a long time, and the porridge needs to be kept warm after it's cooked. He really put a lot of thought into this. She took the food, maintaining her indifferent demeanor, and said, I'll do it myself. He replied happily like a child, Okay, be careful, it's hot. After eating the porridge, her mood gradually improved, her stomach warmed, and she felt much more comfortable. Suddenly, a shout came from outside, shouting, Bring that two out to see the sect leader. Both of them were startled and listened attentively. She went out to meet them and questioned, Instructor, why are you making such a commotion at Ningxin Pavilion so early in the morning? As soon as she finished speaking, a golden light suddenly shot out, tightly binding them both. Xiao Zishi walked over with a group of people, hands on his hips, and announced excitedly, the sect leaders are back this time, and it's no joke. Seeing black smoke emanating from the two disciples, he declared, Last night, we caught two demonic creatures who were stealing from my disciples. They've confessed. Someone let them in. It was Zhu Yunchang. Zhao Zisher said triumphantly. Shouting gasped in shock, What? How is that possible? The Grand Elder standing at the side added, They've all confessed. You can't disbelieve it. Zhu Yunchang was bewitched by demonic creatures. According to sect rules, his cultivation must be abolished. The second elder also chimed in, That traitor must die. Zhu Yunchang laughed upon hearing this. Haha, you old geezers. So simple. Before he could finish, his eyes suddenly froze. Someone used spiritual power to tightly bind him and pull him forward. Shouting exclaimed, Yunchang. She desperately shouted, Let him go. Her eyes were filled with helplessness and anger, and she cursed inwardly. Damn it, there's no way to escape. They're actually using Master's immortal rope against us. Is this old woman crazy? Zhu Yunchang was now surrounded by the three elders. They shouted, Tie him up. The golden ropes tightened further. He was covered in cold sweat, and blood that looked like strawberry jam spewed from his mouth. Ugh! Shouting frowned worriedly, but she was powerless. He collapsed on the ground in pain, and she cursed angrily, Bastards. Suddenly, a force was severed. Zhu Yunchang gasped, enduring each wave of pain. Shouting's heart ached, and tears welled up in her eyes. The instructor sneered, You always have to learn your lesson the hard way. I thought you were more patient than this. He approached, his face full of disdain. But in the end, you can only watch helplessly as your beloved disciple. As she became crippled, resentment flashed in her eyes, and she silently called out his name, Zhao Zisher. Her hands began to gather golden spiritual energy, thinking, I can't move now, but I can transfer half of my spiritual energy to Yunchang to protect his spiritual core. A moment later, Zhu Yunchang lay still on the ground, motionless. Shouting's heart ached, and tears streamed down her face. Yunchang, she pulled him into her arms. Master is here. It's all right. It's all over. Having achieved his goal, Xiao Zishi urged the others to leave. Let's go, elders. This kid is crippled. There's nothing more to see. Shouting glared at their retreating figures, silently vowing, Just you wait. I will make you pay for what you did today. Meanwhile, night had fallen. Xiao Zishi dragged the two demonic shadows to a desolate area, muttering to himself, The Grand Elder could have just gotten anyone to nail these things to the mountain. Why did it have to be me? He said it was to boost my prestige. I'm already the sect leader. Why do I have to do this kind of chore? So annoying. Suddenly, a voice came from ahead, Greetings, sect leader. Startled, he looked up. A young man with a respectful expression said, Congratulations, sect leader, on eliminating the traitor. Zishi asked, puzzled, Who are you? The young man quickly introduced himself, Disciple Luo Wenxiu, chief disciple of the Divine Might Hall. Zishi then remembered. Oh right, I remember you. You're Luo Wenshio, Divine Might's prized disciple. You were quite helpful during the capture of those two demonic creatures earlier today. He bowed and replied, Indeed, it was this disciple. It is an honor that the sect leader remembers me. Luo Wenshio noticed the two demonic shadows in his hands and asked curiously, what does the sect leader plan to do with these two? Zishi said impatiently, don't mention it. The Grand Elder wants me to nail these two to the mountain. What a hassle. Luo Wenshio suddenly suggested, if the sect leader trusts me, why not leave this matter to this disciple? Xiao Zishi, without hesitation, handed the demonic shadows over to him. That would be great. I'll leave it all to you. I'm going to bed. The two demonic shadows were overjoyed to see Luo Wenshio. Brother, you really came to save us. Thanks. The other one whispered excitedly. Whose new bodies are we taking? Let's go grab them. He quickly soothed them. Don't worry. I've arranged everything for you. Luo Wenshio mysteriously led them to the sect gate. Hearing that they had arrived at the entrance, the two demonic shadows excitedly slipped out of his hands, their eyes filled with anticipation. But their joy was short-lived. Luo Wenshio pushed them through the gate and casually closed it. One of the demonic shadows looked at him pitifully, but he consoled it. I'm sorry, but if we let you live, we'll be exposed. Luo Wenshio's eyes turned cold. This is your honor, for the sake of the Demon Lord's grand plan. With that, he pressed the mechanism in front of him without hesitation. Screams came from within the gate. Inside Ningxin Pavilion, Zhu Yinchang remained unconscious in bed. Shouting, filled with anxiety, used all her strength to heal him, thinking it's like someone planted a stone dragon formation inside him. It not only destroyed his spiritual core, but also caused him unbearable pain. I thought protecting Yunchang's spiritual core would keep him safe, but it wasn't enough. He slowly opened his eyes and spoke weakly. Master, I feel much better. He tightly gripped her hand, stopping her from expending more spiritual energy. Don't waste your spiritual energy anymore. He took the opportunity to say, Master, lie down. Can you stay with me for a while? I want to be with Master. She remained silent. He continued to feign weakness. Master, please, stay with me for a while. It doesn't hurt when you're here. She frowned, her heart filled with pity. Finally, she slowly lay down beside him. Shouting softly comforted him. Don't worry. The primordial spirits of the two disciples possessed by the demonic creatures have been freed. They'll recover after 5 days of recuperation. Then we can ask them what happened. Zhu Yinchang replied happily, Thank you, Master, for clearing my name. He held her hand against his face. Master, thank you so much. He recalled the dark past of his childhood in the demon realm. The suffering and injustice I endured in the demon realm were 1,000 times worse than today, but no one cared. He looked at her hopefully, thinking, now that I have Master's care, even being shattered to pieces is worth it. Obsession surfaced in his eyes, and a sly smile played on his lips. Thanks to you, Zhao Zishur, you useless waste, I have the opportunity to get close to Master. When I kill you later, I'll at least leave your body intact. The night was deep and silence reigned. Zhu Yinchang had fallen into a deep sleep and shouting quietly sat up. A calculating look spread across her face. Within the temple, she observed Shouting donning black clothes, covering her face with cloth, and stealthily searching for something. That Xiao Zishi only became sect leader because of the 3 elders' support. If I can drive a wedge between them, he will naturally lose his power. Holding a stack of paper, she thought, I respected them before because they were dedicated to upholding the sect's reputation and didn't want me and Xiao Zishi to fight amongst ourselves. She made up her mind, but today they tortured Yunchang for no reason. These muddle-headed old fools no longer deserve my respect. Moreover, she recalled, there have been demons appearing both at the foot of the mountain and within the sect. Someone must be manipulating things behind the scenes. If I can exploit the rift between Xiao Zishi and the elders, I might be able to draw that person out. Even if I can't, I can still turn Xiao Zishi and the elders against each other, which would be entirely beneficial for me and Yinchang. With a smug sneer, she picked up a brush and began writing on the blank paper without hesitation, thinking, Xiao Zishi, this is a big gift for you. You're welcome. The paper read, Key Points Summary Log. As Xiaoning wrote, she inwardly complained about Xiao Zishi's ugly handwriting. Imitating his handwriting, she fought back nausea as she carefully wrote each character. After a while, she finally finished and admired her masterpiece with satisfaction. This stack of documents was precisely what he had reported to the elders these past few days. They would definitely see it. She thought smugly. Once that Zhao Zisher sees these, he definitely won't be able to explain himself, and then there will surely be discord between them. Early the next morning, Xiaoning and Zhu Yunchang woke up early and meditated together. Just then, Luo Wenxiu and Xiao Zishi arrived carrying a box and exclaimed in surprise, "Junior sister Ning, second senior brother." She responded with a simple acknowledgement. He stepped forward and said, "I heard Yunchang's cultivation was crippled a few days ago, so I specially bought some good spiritual medicine to restore his spiritual roots." Zhu Yunchang's eyes immediately filled with jealousy. He moved closer to Xiaoning, grabbed her arm, and said, "No need. Master has already prepared a lot of spiritual medicine for me and personally helped me regulate my chi bit by bit." She coughed a few times, cough, cough. "If you have something to say it quickly and let go of me." He pretended to respond, "Ah, Master told me to hold your hand." Their intimacy caused Luo Wenxiu's face to darken instantly. Seeing the atmosphere grow tense, she covered her face with her hand in exasperation. In this atmosphere, Xiaoning quickly fled the scene. "I'll go dry the medicinal herbs for you." Zhu Yunchang called after her, "Master, you're so troublesome." Luo Wenxiu sneered, what's the use of him provoking Zhu Yunchang and clinging to junior sister?" He slowly knelt down, bringing his face close to Zhu Yunchang's, and taunted, "We both know what she wants is control over the entire sect." He warned, "You're nothing but a cripple now. What help can you offer?" Zhu Yunchang's expression remained calm as he retorted, "And you, even if you aren't crippled, you'll still need to cultivate for another 180 years before you can be of any help to Master, right?" With a murderous glint in his eyes, he said, "Don't be delusional anymore. Can't you see that junior sister only pities you?" His tone turned suggestive. Like pitying a dog, she painstakingly raised, only able to bark but not bite. Hearing these insulting words, Zhu Yunchang remained silent. Suddenly, Xiaoning shouted, "Luo Wenxiu." Their conversation abruptly stopped, and they both looked up at her. She walked over, carrying a bowl of medicine. Luo Wenxiu softly called out, "Senior sister." Without warning, she placed her hand on Zhu Yunchang's shoulder. Then she coldly said to him, "Please leave. Don't come to Ningxin Pavilion again." She frowned and emphasized, "Don't disturb Yunchang's recovery." Luo Wenxiu tried to explain, "Senior sister, I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted to." Zhu Yunchang interrupted directly, "Didn't you hear, Master?" He leaned close to Luo Wenxiu's face, leaving him speechless. He added triumphantly, "Please leave." Zhu Yunchang even took the opportunity to touch Xiaoning's hand, showing off. "Don't disturb us." Luo Wenxiu gritted his teeth, his face full of frustration. He held the box he had brought and reluctantly left. "Farewell." The two watched him leave. Xiaoning reminded, "He's gone. Can you let go of my hand now?" He replied happily, "Of course, but before that, I have to thank Master for protecting me." After saying that, he boldly kissed her hand. Xiaoning angrily withdrew her hand. "Don't talk nonsense. Drink your medicine quickly." He still wanted to protest, "This medicine is so bitter, I can't." She refused decisively. "No way." Meanwhile, at Wenwu Pavilion, Shun Wei was watering flowers and teasing, "Master's face is so dark, he definitely didn't gain anything from Ningxin Pavilion." Hearing this, Luo Wenxiu's face darkened even more. He walked up to him, puzzled. "Strange, you always greeted me so respectfully before. Why have you suddenly become so rude?" Shun Wei replied calmly, "You harmed Zhu Yunchang with a demonic beast core. What right do you have to lecture me?" Hearing his dirty secret exposed, he stammered, "You." Before he could finish, Shun Wei interrupted him. "Do you want to know how I found out?" He explained slyly, "Because I'm the one who snatched that thing from Shun Wei and gave it to you." Luo Wenxiu was startled by these words and asked, "Who are you? When did you bring Shun Wei back?" He was already possessed, and his tone changed when your leg was injured. Hearing this, he frowned worriedly. "When my leg was injured. I haven't noticed for so long. This guy's cultivation is probably far above mine." Shun Wei quickly reassured him, "Don't panic. I'm here to deal with Su Yuqing." I have no interest in you. The man asked, then why are you dealing with him? He cryptically warned, don't ask what you shouldn't. You just need to know. Weiwei boldly moved closer to his face and threatened, if I'm exposed, the matter of you framing Zui Yunsheng with demonic beast powder will also be revealed. Hearing this, he gritted his teeth and endured. That matter absolutely cannot be known. Otherwise, the trust one worked so hard to gain in the sect will be completely ruined. He closed his eyes and thought, finally making up his mind. From today onwards, in front of outsiders, we are master and disciple. At other times, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. He crossed his arms smugly. You really are a smart one. Just as the mortals say, a wise man submits to circumstances. Luo Wenxiu was speechless, quickly analyzing the words he had just heard in his mind. Mortals, you. Weiwei put his hand on his shoulder and instructed, all right, go, and asked the sect leader to lift Zhu Yunchang's confinement quickly. He asked in confusion, didn't you say you were going to deal with him? Weiwei left Xiao Sada, not forgetting to remind him, don't meddle, just do as I say. Luo Wenxiu agreed, all right. Weiwei stroked his chin smugly. Only by lifting his confinement can he come into contact with the demonic energy of the forbidden area as soon as possible. He's eager to improve his spiritual power, so he definitely won't be able to resist. Inside Ningjin Pavilion, Zhu Yuncheng was panting, his strong abdominal muscles rising and falling. Covered in sweat, he said with difficulty, Master, I feel like I can't hold on any longer. She reminded him from behind, don't talk nonsense while regulating your breath, or it will disrupt your spiritual energy. He softly replied, all right. The two continued to heal, golden light continuously flowing into Zhu Yunchang's body. After a while, Xiaoning also breathed a sigh of relief. It's done. She slowly withdrew her hand. Then she quickly left. I'll go back first. You must be tired. Rest. Suddenly, Zhu Yunchang remembered Luo Wenxiu's provocative words. She wants to control the entire sect. Now that you're crippled, what help can you be? He lowered his head dejectedly and pondered, at this rate, how long will it take me to become master support? He said to her, Master, please go back and rest. I'll meditate for a while longer. Hearing this, she frowned with worry. Xiaoning turned around and advised, you've already reached your limit today. Don't rush. But he stubbornly insisted, I want to try and break through my limit. A flash of displeasure suddenly crossed her eyes. She firmly grabbed his arm to stop him. No, you must rest. She pulled him outside and cheerfully suggested, your confinement has been over for so long. I'll take you out for a walk. This surprised him. Xiaoning emphasized again, listen to me, I'm your master. Zhu Yunchang was bewildered and speechless. His bright eyes sparkled. I know. You are the most important person in my heart. The two walked together to the front of Xiao Zishi's study. Then they secretly eavesdropped on the conversation inside. What's wrong with the second elder and third elder? They get sick every time there's a meeting, especially the second elder, who won't even see me. Zhu Yunchang pointed at her playfully, Master, She made a shushing gesture. She'll listen. At this moment, the Grand Elder said in a low voice, ever since you handed over those books yesterday, the two of them have been acting strange. Unless there's something wrong with the books the sect leader gave yesterday. I didn't notice anything. Xiao Zishi loudly defended himself. What nonsense are you talking about? This sect leader can't even write books. He stubbornly didn't care. Besides, I'm the sect leader now. Even if there's something in the books that displeases them, I don't care. The Grand Elder hurriedly reminded him, Zishi, you can't think like that. He advised, you still have to rely on their power to secure your position as sect leader. Don't ever say such things again. Zhu Yunchang whispered to Xiaoning outside, Master, I made those books. Inside, the argument was getting heated, and Xiao Zishi still said proudly, I'm already the sect leader, why should I be so aggrieved? Xiaoning responded indifferently, A faint smile appeared on Xiaoning's face as she thought to herself, the rift has appeared. Now, we just wait for the show to begin. The candle had long since burned out. Zhu Yunchang slowly walked to Xiaoning's bedside. She was already sound asleep. He recalled her words, the cracks have appeared. Observe the changes 1,000 ant holes can bring down a dam. TSK. Those words were truly insightful. He muttered to himself, a worried expression on his face. I can't delay any longer. Those priests and those power-hungry old geezers, they're such a nuisance. Zhu Yunchang clenched his fists, his expression firm as he told himself, I must become stronger. I can't be a burden to master, even if that disgusting demonic energy is the fastest way to gain power. He began to strategize. That heavily guarded forbidden area, forcing entry would be harder than ascending to heaven. Master found me back then because they were all busy with Xiao's succession ceremony, and the forbidden area was unguarded. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and rushed out, thinking, it seems I can only cause a big commotion. He grabbed a torch, lighting his path, his expression tense as he looked ahead. Moments later, a raging fire erupted. He was using a diversionary tactic. Amidst the flames, Xiao Zishi and the others, protected by a barrier, rushed out in a panic. After escaping, Luo Wenxiu anxiously asked, Senior brother, Sect leader, are you all right? Xiao Zishi turned to look at the burning palace and replied, I'm fine. Quickly summon all the disciples to put out the fire. My treasures are all inside. Shen Wei respectfully reminded, Master, it's not just your belongings. The scrolls of the previous sect leaders are also inside. It's best to quickly inform the 3 elders to assist. Hearing this, he became even more anxious, repeatedly urging, Yes, yes, yes. Hurry, hurry. Luo Wenxiu watched his retreating figure, thinking to himself, what is he planning? First, he had me help lift Zhu Yunchang's confinement, and now he's taking this opportunity to draw the 3 elders away from the forbidden area. He suddenly realized, could Zhu Yunchang have something to do with the forbidden area? Knock, knock, knock. By now, Zhu Yunchang was standing before the demonic gate. Looking at the crisscrossing cracks on the door, he speculated. As expected, these cracks are difficult to fully repair. The demonic creatures at the foot of the mountain are growing stronger. I'm afraid it has something to do with the demonic energy leaking from here. He thought smugly, as long as Master doesn't discover that I'm secretly cultivating demonic arts, it'll be fine. With that thought, Zhu Yunchang immediately sat down cross-legged and began to absorb the surrounding black demonic energy. A look of discomfort crossed his face at the familiar, nauseating aura. A dark hue surfaced in his mind, memories flooding back like a torrent. All the unpleasant memories of his childhood came rushing back. He suddenly collapsed to the ground, a sarcastic smile playing on his lips as he covered his mouth. We're just servants. How dare we hurt the second prince? The person beside him echoed, oh dear, I apologize, your highness. False sincerity, disgusting. Then, the first person pretended to kneel before Zhu Yunchang, asking innocently, Your Highness won't blame us, will you? Zhu Yunchang finally couldn't help but roar, Get out. Before he finished speaking, the person grabbed a handful of his hair, yanking it painfully. He looked down at Zhu Yunchang, sneering, You dare to scold me. Still think you're a prince. He leaned closer to Zhu Yunchang, saying viciously, Let me tell you, you're nothing but a fatherless, motherless bastard. If it weren't for the first prince's weak health needing a medicine primer, the Empress Dowager would have thrown you to the demonic beasts long ago. You'd be dead already. He continued coldly, Since you're a dog, act like one. Zhu Yunchang could only endure the humiliation with tears in his eyes. The man wasn't done yet, pushing Zhu Yunchang's head into the dirt. After the torment, the man pulled out a handkerchief, wiping his hands in disgust, as if Zhu Yunchang had contaminated him with something filthy. The person beside him added insult to injury. Use your foot next time your hands are too dirty. Zhu Yunchang lay on the ground, unable to move, and could only watch them leave. He clenched his jaw, filled with rage and determination. I must escape. I must leave this place. Back in the present, Zhu Yunchang stared blankly into the distance, his expression gloomy. Demonic energy surged wildly around him. He thought, It's almost time. The 3 elders should be back soon. Zhu Yunchang slowly rose, releasing the dark power towards the gate. He thought confidently, As long as I connect my demonic energy to the spiritual veins here, I can directly absorb spiritual power from Ningxin Pavilion. 15 minutes later, he walked back dejectedly. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. It's so late, where have you been? He startled, turning around with a nervous expression. He saw Shouting frown and blurt out, Master. Zhu Yunchang's heart tightened, and he stood there pondering for a moment. Does Master's expression mean she suspects me? I need to come up with a half-truth to get away. Shouting's face showed obvious curiosity as she looked at him. Suddenly, he knelt down, his tone sincere. I'm sorry, Master. I was wrong, he said, his eyes tightly closed. Because my spiritual power has truly been crippled, I secretly set fire to Jiao Shishir's place. Hearing this, she panicked. You set the fire? She asked. He insisted. Yes, please punish me, Master. Shouting didn't say anything, then stepped forward and placed her hand on his shoulder. Her attitude completely changed, and she smiled, praising Zhu Yunchang. You did well. She crossed her arms, excitedly recalling. I went to watch the commotion earlier. You wouldn't believe how funny Jiao Shishi's blackened face was. And I even took the opportunity to fan the flames. Xiao Zishi and the second elder had a huge argument over it. Shouting said, if this continues, the chances of them reconciling are even slimmer. These words stunned him, his gaze suddenly dropping, revealing a hint of gentleness. Then, with a hint of delight, he said, Master and I are truly of one mind, working together seamlessly. This startled Shouting, her cheeks flushing. She reminded him, don't talk nonsense. Go back to your room and rest. I'll cover for you tonight. He obediently replied, thank you, Master. With that, Shouting drifted away. Seeing this, he let out a long sigh of relief. Phew, the demon-subduing secret art hasn't been discovered. Zhu Yunchang glanced at her, thinking to himself, I hope Master rests early. I still need to investigate the two conflicting spiritual powers within my body. I absolutely cannot let anyone find out. After an unknown amount of time, Shouting walked into the night carrying a lantern. A flash of surprise crossed her eyes as she stopped in front of Zhu Yunchang's door. Shouting curiously pushed the door open and called softly, Yunchang, aren't you resting yet? His entire body was permeated with a black mist of demonic energy. Hearing someone enter, he was startled, cold sweat beading on his forehead. He looked towards the doorway, his face extremely pained as he asked, Master, why are you here? Seeing Zhu Yunchang's pitiful appearance, Shouting asked worriedly, what happened? She quickly stepped forward and asked, why is your spiritual power so chaotic? He stammered, unable to speak. He clenched his bleeding fist, thinking to himself, the demonic energy within my body is craving to absorb the surrounding evil spiritual power. If Master is here, I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself. He tried to appear calm, forcing a casual reply. I'm fine, Master. I was just trying to break through in my cultivation, but my spiritual power became a little wan. It'll be fine soon. Shouting anxiously reached out, saying, you really broke through. Sit down quickly. I'll help you stabilize your energy. But he stopped her. I said, I'm fine. Don't come over. Realizing his tone was a bit harsh, he extended his hand and said, I'm sorry, Master. Zhu Yunchang tried to explain, I'm not angry at you, Master. It's just, if Master is alone in my room late at night, I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself and be disrespectful to you. He tried to persuade her to leave. Please go back, Master. I can handle this myself. Shouting pretended to agree. I understand. I'll leave now. He said happily, take care, Master. His hands trembled as he locked the door. She was still standing outside the door, feeling uneasy. Then, without thinking too much, she simply sat down at the doorway. Shouting called his name worriedly, Yinchang. Understanding his situation, she blamed herself. As your master, it's not convenient for me to go in and help you regulate your energy, but I'll stay outside. If you can't hold on, call me. He was a little surprised to hear this. His eyes filled with hope. He leaned against the door in pain. Thank you for being here, she said. Zhu Yunchang's legs went weak from the discomfort, and he collapsed to the ground. He bit his arm, determinedly saying, I can definitely control it. The long night quickly passed, and finally dawn broke, with a pair of mandarin ducks playfully entwined outside. Shouting had kept watch outside the door all night, and had fallen asleep at some point. She slowly opened her eyes, and suddenly saw a flash of green light before her. A message suddenly arrived. The injured disciple has awakened. Immortal Shouting is requested to return quickly for questioning. She quickly recognized this as a spiritual message from the medical pavilion and sat up happily, her face beaming with joy as she said, That's great. I'll go and find out who did that. Shouting hurriedly ran out of Zhu Yunchang's room. He slowly opened the door and walked out. He watched her departing figure, worry etched on his face. Clenching his fists, he wondered, why is Master leaving in such a hurry? The scene shifts to Ningxin Pavilion. A disciple holding flowers is giggling nonstop, while the disciple beside him looks exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. Shouting froze, turning to the elder beside her and asking, what's wrong with them? The elder stroked his beard, replying with a puzzled expression, they were fine when I came to deliver the message just now. Why have they suddenly become like this? She frowned in thought. Someone must have known I was was coming and seized the opportunity to cause trouble. Shouting continued to chase the person. Time was of the essence, and the other party couldn't have gone far. Her eyes scanned the surroundings, her expression alert. Suddenly, she saw Shun Wei and his group up ahead. A disciple said happily, "Senior brother Shun, you must do your best at the training grounds later." He replied casually, "Don't worry, I'll do my best." A sudden thought struck her, raising doubts. I remember Shun Wei is left-handed, and his sword always hangs on his right side. Could he have been possessed too? Sure enough, his sword was hanging on the opposite side. Shouting immediately took out a few black butterflies and stuck them on him, casting a tracking spell to find out what was wrong with him. She carefully hid behind a large tree and observed, anxiously thinking. He's been standing there for so long without moving. Could something have happened nearby? She frowned, her eyes full of suspicion. Disciples are not allowed near the forbidden area behind the mountain, yet he came here alone. Something is definitely wrong. Unexpectedly, she saw Luo Wenxiu holding Shun Wei's body from afar. He was crying, while Shun Wei's eyes were wide open in death. Witnessing this scene, she stared in shock, her mouth slightly agape. Shun Wei was dead. Shouting stepped forward and asked, "Second senior brother, what happened here?" He looked grief-stricken, tears streaming down his face, unable to speak for a moment. Luo Wenxiu looked up at her, choking back sobs, junior sister shouting, "It's all my fault. I killed Shun Wei." She was startled and asked, "What?" He began to recount between sobs. "Just now, I felt something was wrong with him, so I secretly followed him to the back mountain." Who knew the demonic creature inside him sensed that he was being followed and burst out of his body in a panic. Shouting frowned, finding it hard to believe. This is too coincidental, but there's no evidence to prove Luo Wenxiu is lying. She sadly patted his shoulder and comforted him. "Give Shun Wei a proper burial. We will avenge him in the future, so he can rest in peace." Luo Wenxiu nodded, while sobbing, "No." But a sinister thought flashed through his mind. "Shun Wei can no longer threaten me. I finally found a chance to kill him, and almost got caught by junior sister." A triumphant smile almost appeared on his face as he thought, "It's good that junior sister still believes me." Meanwhile, Zhu Yunchang arrived from afar and saw her comforting another man. Shouning's intimate actions with Luo Wenxiu made Zhu Yunchang grit his teeth in anger. He furiously said, "Master rushed here, so it turns out it was to have a secret meeting with Luo Wenxiu." Inside Ningxin Pavilion, Shouting stroked her chin in thought as she walked. Luo Wenxiu is definitely involved in the possessions, but why are those demonic creatures targeting Yunchang specifically? Suddenly, Zhu Yunchang questioned, "Master, where did you go? Why are you only back now?" She was startled, stammering as she looked at him. Thinking to herself, "I haven't found any evidence yet. I can't tell Yunchang, lest he act impulsively." Shouting quickly sat down on a chair, slowly poured a cup of tea, and said, "Nothing. I went to the medical pavilion to ask about the two disciples who were possessed, but I didn't find out anything." As soon as she finished speaking, Zhu Yunchang suddenly became agitated, grabbing her arm. The tea spilled across the table before she could drink it, making a loud noise. He pushed her away agitatedly, saying discontentedly, "Does Master think I'm a child who's easy to fool?" Shouting asked in a panic, "What do you want to do?" He widened his eyes, his expression frightening, and brazenly kissed her neck, whispering, "I want to do things unmarried men and women shouldn't do." Zhu Yunchang grew increasingly bold, kissing Shouning's neck. She tried to push him away, but she was afraid of hurting him with her spiritual power since he had just recovered. He became even more daring, and she cried out in exasperation, "Yunchang, you can't do this. Let me go." The boy even dared to nibble on her neck, causing her to let out a soft moan before he slowly loosened his grip. But he wasn't done yet, and he swept her up into his arms. Her face flushed crimson, her eyes widened, and she was completely flustered. The teapot on the table finally fell to the ground with a harsh clang. He carried her straight to the table and placed her on it. Face to face, an extremely close distance, Shouting firmly urged him to calm down. "Don't force me to take action." He wasn't afraid at all, instead echoing her words, "Take action then." Zhu Yunchang's expression remained blank as he provoked her. "Master, come on. You might as well kill me now. If you kill me, I won't have to think about you abandoning me every day." Hearing him say this, Shouting felt a headache coming on, her throat tightening, unable to speak. She asked, puzzled, "When did I ever say I didn't want you? What nonsense are you talking about?" He raised his voice, laced with sarcasm. "Master, are you playing dumb? Everyone saw you meeting Luo Wenxiu alone today." Hearing this, Shouting froze. Meeting alone. Me and Luo Wenxiu. She quickly explained, "Are you talking about the incident in the restricted area of the back mountain? You got it wrong. I was investigating the possession, looking into Shun Wei's past, and I just happened to run into Luo Wenxiu and Su Jiyuan." Zhu Yunchang jealously pressed, "Then why were you holding his shoulder?" She rubbed her forehead in exasperation. "I wasn't holding him at all. I just arrived there and discovered Shun Wei was already dead, so I suspected Luo Wenxiu. But I had no proof, so I had to pretend to comfort him to avoid causing a scene. That's all there is to it." Zhu Yunchang asked again, his expression dazed. "Really?" She raised 3 fingers, swearing, "You can investigate it yourself. As your master, I wouldn't lie to you. May lightning strike me if I'm lying." He quickly interrupted, "Don't say any more. I believe you." Shouting frowned, reminding him, "Since the misunderstanding is cleared up, let go of me." His expression softened. He asked, "Master, are you still angry?" Then he gently stroked her face. "I'm sorry. I was too impulsive today. Please, for the sake of our marital bond, don't be angry with me anymore, okay?" Hearing this, her face flushed red. "Marital? What are you talking about?" Shouting angrily shouted at him, "Ahem, if you spout any more nonsense, I'll never forgive you." With that, she pulled her hand away. Zhu Yunchang optimistically said, "So, Master, you forgive me for my disobedience just now." She pushed him away irritably. "You're still talking about it. Get off me." He obediently stopped touching her, repeatedly replying, "Yes, yes." As evening approached, the atmosphere around them was unusually quiet. Zhu Yunchang was still diligently cultivating at the side, thinking to himself, the remaining spiritual veins in the back mountain seemed to have expanded again, making it even more convenient to absorb demonic energy. He was still uneasy, thinking of the intimate scene between Shouting and Luo Wenxiu in the back mountain, his heart filled with irritation. In her panic, when she concealed the demonic energy on him, caused his breathing to become heavy, his face covered in cold sweat, his eyes wide open, his expression terrifying. He sadly asked himself, "I still don't understand. If she really wasn't interested in Luo Wenxiu, why did she subconsciously lie to me after coming back? Does she distrust me that much? I'm so good to her, yet she still doesn't believe me." Zhu Yunchang just sat there blankly, lost in thought. A terrible thought flashed through his mind. She doesn't even trust me with such a small matter. If I help her achieve her wish in the future, will she still want to abandon me? The barrier around him gradually dissipated. Shouting walked up to him and ordered, "Let's go. Come down the mountain with me to eliminate demons." He asked curiously, "The issue with Luo Wenxiu hasn't been resolved yet. Why are you suddenly in such a hurry to go down the mountain?" She sighed and replied, "There's no evidence in Shun Wei's death, and Luo Wenxiu's matter can't be investigated for a while." She quickly walked out the door and continued to explain, "However, there's already a rift between the second elder and Xiao Zishi, and we can't miss this opportunity. Taking people to eliminate demons can quickly gain the second elder support, and then succeeding as sect leader will be just around the corner." He softly replied, "I understand." Zhu Yunchang looked at her deeply, thinking to himself, "All right, this time I'll take the opportunity to see clearly whether I, or the position of sect leader, is more important in Master's heart." They quickly rode their horses towards the city ravaged by demonic creatures. Shouting added, "Recently, demonic creatures have been causing chaos in Ming City. I heard that some sects have come to eliminate them, but they all returned without success." Zhu Yunchang replied with interest, "Then if we can resolve this disaster, gaining the second elder support is only a matter of time." On the road, several strangely dressed young people appeared, murmuring, "2 more cultivators have come." Suddenly, they turned hostile and yelled, "What are you looking at? Get out of our Ming City. We don't welcome you." Others echoed, "That's right, we don't welcome troublemakers like you. Get lost, or don't blame us for being rude." Shouting asked in confusion, "We're here to eliminate demons. How do we become troublemakers?" The person continued to yell, "Less nonsense. If you don't leave, we'll beat you with sticks." Zhu Yunchang angrily raised his whip. "You ungrateful wretches, how dare you speak to Master like that?" Shouting grabbed his arm, stopping him. "Yunchang, you can't attack the citizens," she persuaded softly. "Let's go outside the city and figure out the situation before making a decision." He obediently nodded. Okay, I'll listen to Master. The two walked together to a spot a mile outside the city. Shouting reminded him, there must be something strange going on for the people of Ming City to react this way. You shouldn't have gotten angry with them just now. Zhu Yinchang retorted with some annoyance. I just can't stand them bullying Master. It makes me upset. Her face suddenly flushed with shame. At this moment, a scream suddenly came from the distance. Up ahead, two ugly young men were harassing a young woman. The young woman's face was pale and bloodless. In this critical moment, Shouting appeared, shielding her and driving the villains away with her spiritual power. She gently approached and helped the young woman up, asking with concern, "Are you all right, Mississippi?" The young woman's cheeks flushed and she stammered, I'm fine, thanks to you." Before she could finish, the young woman suddenly grabbed Shouting's hand. Wait, the young woman's eyes sparkled as she excitedly suggested, "Pretty big sister, that move you just did was amazing. Can you take me as your disciple?" Hearing this, Zhu Yinchang unhappily grabbed Shouting's arm. Extremely possessive, he immediately objected. "No, Master only takes me as a disciple." Shouting frowned and said, "I'm sorry, Mississippi. Besides, judging by your clothing, you're from the Weiwei Pavilion. Our Jiantong sect doesn't accept outer disciples." Tears welled up in the young woman's eyes, but she said firmly, "Then can I go to Ming City with Big Sister to eliminate demons?" Zhu Yunchang clung tightly to Shouting, warning, "You're just trying to find an excuse to stay by Master's side, aren't you?" Master don't agree. But the kind-hearted Shouting couldn't bear it, feeling it would be too dangerous to leave her alone. Ignoring Zhu Yunchang, she agreed. "All right, let's find a place to settle down first, and then I'll bandage your wounds." He called out in dissatisfaction, "Master." In the end, they went together to the Moonshine Inn. Shouting walked ahead and instructed, "After this young lady's wounds are bandaged, we'll disguise ourselves and go into the city to investigate." Zhu Yinchang secretly shut the door heavily behind her. She turned around and looked at him warily, but he suddenly embraced her from behind. Shouting asked in a fluster, "What are you doing?" He said with a hint of jealousy, "That ugly girl wants to stick by your side. Why did you agree, Master? Do you want to take her as a disciple?" Shouting explained, "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm just afraid she'll be in danger alone." His voice filled with jealousy. He continued to press, "Master, you just met her and you're already worried about her safety. Is it out of righteousness, or do you have other intentions?" She explained, bewildered, "Why would you think that? It's a misunderstanding." Zhu Yinchang turned her face towards him. Then he passionately kissed her lips, and the two lingered in a fervent embrace. Shouting's cheeks flushed, lost in the moment. His lips. She gradually came back to her senses and tried to push him away. Stop. But he wouldn't listen, instead becoming more insistent. I want to leave my mark on every inch of Master's skin." Seizing the opportunity, Zhu Yunchang gathered spiritual energy in his hand. He forcefully pulled off the black cloth from behind her. Shouting sensed it, and the black cloth quickly fell before her eyes. Her eyes were covered, and the two continued their deep kiss. He wrapped his arms around her waist, and she responded in kind. Unable to see, her other senses became even more acute. Her hand lightly touched his chest, and she was startled. His body temperature was alarmingly high. Shouting began to enjoy his caresses. The calluses on his hands were rough. Her neck tickled. At the peak of passion, she suddenly came to her senses, warning herself, "No, I can't let him continue." She quickly formed a spell on her palm. At that moment, the young woman suddenly burst through the door, shouting in a panic, "It's bad. It's bad." Their 6 eyes met, the scene incredibly awkward. Shouting pushed him away and calmly explained, I was helping Yunchang regulate his breathing." Zhu Yunchang gave the young woman a disgusted look, thinking that her timing was impeccable. Was she doing it on purpose? The young woman wiped the sweat from her forehead and said breathlessly, "Stop regulating breathing. The demons in Ming City are rioting. Many people have died." Shouting was shocked by the news. What? At the same time, people were constantly being chased and killed. There were too many demons. Run, run. Desperate cries were everywhere. "Help! Save me!" Standing in the midst of the chaos, Shouting began to assign tasks. There are demons on both the east and west sides. We'll split into 3 groups. Yinchang, go east. I'll go west. Young lady, take the people and evacuate safely to outside the city. The 3 quickly split up. Zhu Yunchang continuously slew demonic creatures in the east of the city. His eyes widened as if he had discovered something. He looked at the red marks on the demonic creatures and quickly realized what they were. These were the demon lord's minions. He began to understand. Without orders, these creatures would never leave the demonic city, so their appearance in Ming City was no accident. Zhu Yunchang recalled the figure of the white-haired man and thought, could everything that happened before have been orchestrated by him? He pieced together the previous events. First, the three elders were used to cripple his spiritual power. Then his spiritual veins were accelerated in the forbidden grounds, causing him to rapidly absorb demonic energy and fall into the demonic path. And finally, he was to be taken back as a sacrifice. He narrowed his eyes, full of suspicion. So what was their purpose in appearing in Ming City this time? Was it to continue to lure him into absorbing demonic energy, or to target his master and cause his inner demons to grow? Thinking of this, Zhu Yunchang gritted his teeth in anger. He hurried to find his master. Although this was just his speculation, he should still advise his master to leave this place first, in case the worst happened. Elsewhere, Xiaoning frowned. She was injured and leaned against the wall to rest. Lien sat beside her, blaming herself. Master sister, I'm sorry. It's because my cultivation is insufficient that you were injured blocking that blow for me. Xiaoning shook her head. Don't say that. Zhu Yunchang also quickly arrived and asked worriedly, Master, are you injured? Master, the wound on your shoulder is serious. You should leave here and get treatment. She calmly replied, it's fine. Ming City is in danger now. I can't leave just because of this small injury. He grabbed her arm and urged, but you just fought fiercely with the demonic creatures and were distracted protecting this girl. You're almost at your limit. Xiaoning angrily pulled her hand back and snapped, enough. This is a matter of life and death. Don't let your prejudice against Lien blind you to your responsibility to the people. You're being childish. After being reprimanded, he lowered his head, his expression gloomy. He asked dejectedly, is this how Master sees me in her heart? He angrily grabbed her hand and questioned, in Master's heart, am I someone who can't distinguish right from wrong? Someone narrow-minded. Xiaoning rolled her eyes and tried to explain, I just said you don't understand Lien yet. Don't jump to conclusions. I didn't mean anything else. But he still looked jealous. I don't understand her. Then does Master understand her better than I do? He looked at her with a hint of dejection, his eyes full of disappointment. So Master misunderstands my feelings, can't see my sincerity. Xiaoning's cheeks flushed slightly as she tried to appease him. Why do you always think the worst? I didn't mean that at all. Seeing the two arguing more and more fiercely, Lien was so anxious that she broke out in a cold sweat. She quickly tried to mediate. Stop arguing. It's true that I caused Master Sister's injury. Before she could finish, Zhu Yunchang impatiently interrupted. This is between us. Don't interfere. Before Xiaoning could react, he swept her up into his arms and said with a blank expression, I'm taking Master to get her wounds treated. Xiaoning clenched her fists and struggled. Put me down. How can you behave like this? He retorted proudly, what if I don't? Xiaoning angrily gathered spiritual energy in her palm and warned, then I'll have to resort to force. But she firmly added, I suppose I won't be able to go with you this time. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhu Yunchang's grip tightened around her waist. The spiritual energy in Xiaoning's palm was instantly suppressed, replaced by a layer of emerald green light that enveloped and restrained her. Her eyes widened in shock. She stammered, frowning at her hand. What's going on? He actually suppressed my spiritual power. Xiaoning questioned him directly. Although I'm injured and my spiritual power is weaker, how could you recover to this extent without my knowledge? He soothed her gently. Don't panic, Master. I can only suppress you for a very short time. I'll release you when we get to the clinic. Then you can hit me, punish me, whatever you want. I won't complain. Lien paced anxiously outside, thinking, it seems I've messed up their master-disciple relationship. Maybe I shouldn't have come along. The scene shifts to the Moonshine Inn. Zhu Yunchang carefully placed Xiaoning on the bed. She was filled with worry, thinking, the people of Ming City are being slaughtered by demonic creatures, and I've been forcibly taken away by my own disciple. I'm truly powerless at this moment. Zhu Yunchang spoke. Master, the wound on your shoulder was bandaged too hastily. Let me undo it and rebandage it for you. She firmly refused. I can bandage it myself. Go out. I don't want to see you right now. Hearing her disgust for him, He stood there to die, motionless. Then, as if nothing had happened, he grasped her arm. Zhu Yinchang coaxed her softly. Master, please don't be angry, all right? I truly had no other choice but to do this. It's all because I'm worried about your safety. His expression anxious, he still politely requested, even if Master can't calm down right now, at least let me bandage your wounds. It'll be quicker this way, and you can go subdue the demons sooner. She felt he had a point. Now truly wasn't the time for a tantrum. So she coldly instructed him, hurry up. A smile immediately bloomed on Zhu Yunchang's face. All right. He slowly removed her clothes, revealing Xiaoning's injury-ridden shoulder. He suggested with heartache, demonic energy has seeped into the wound. Let me clean it for you, master. She shyly turned her face away and softly replied, He quickly leaned down, bringing his mouth close to the wound. Seeing his overly intimate action, Xiaoning asked in a flustered voice, why are you using your mouth? He smoothly explained, my lips and tongue are soft. They won't hurt you, master. Zhu Yinchang gently sucked on the wound. Xiaoning's cheeks flushed, and she softly moaned, She shyly pushed his head away. No need, but he held her hand and continued to heal her wound with his mouth. After a good while, his lips stained with blood, he slowly released the wound. Zhu Yunchang said happily, the demonic energy has been purged. Master, do you feel much better now? Xiaoning quickly adjusted her clothes and replied in a low voice, no. He smiled and held up a roll of bandages. Then let me apply the medicine and bandage it for you, master. Suddenly, a voice came from outside. Hello, is anyone there? Your companion seems to have been captured by the demonic veins. Both of them turned their heads in shock. Ignoring her own safety, Xiaoning hurriedly got out of bed. Lien is in danger. I have to. Before she could finish her sentence, her eyes widened and her face instantly froze. Her body went limp as she collapsed onto the bed. She stared at Zhu Yunchang in confusion, asking with difficulty, what did you do to my wound? He simply smiled without answering. Zhu Yunchang gently settled Xiaoning on the bed and explained in a low voice, Master, forgive me. I can't let you take risks. As for that fool, I'll go save her. She seemed speechless. In the end, she could only hazily look at his pained face, thinking, be careful. Ming City's East District. A pair of slender legs swiftly swept across the treetops. Dressed simply, Xiaoning moved nimbly through the forest. When she woke up, neither Yunchang nor Lien had returned. They must be in danger. Arriving at Shanshin Temple, the surrounding scenery was desolate and silent. She landed lightly in front of the temple gate, pondering. During the day, the waiter said Lien was captured and taken to Xinyu Temple, and Yunchang went to save her. Then he should be here too. She carefully concealed herself, gathering spiritual energy in her hands, on guard. First, I'll use my divine sense to probe the surroundings and see if I can find their exact location. After probing with her spiritual energy for a while, she suddenly discovered an extremely sinister formation. Her gaze sharpened, cold sweat seeping out as she judged. There's actually a demon-gathering formation set up in the temple. Sending a wisp of spiritual energy deeper to investigate, she discovered Zhu Yunchang trapped and unconscious, suspended in the air by the formation. Lien was in slightly better condition, still conscious but tightly bound. From outside, Xiaoning deduced, Yunchang and Lien are both trapped in the formation's eye. Looking at the spiritual energy in her hands, she pondered, to be able to set up such a large formation means the caster possesses extremely strong spiritual power. But they didn't immediately kill Yunchang and Lien, which means they're probably trying to lure me into a trap. She closed her eyes tightly, forcing herself to think calmly. Yunchang's spiritual power has almost fully recovered, and he can hold on for a while longer. I must save Lien first. At this moment, Zhu Yunchang, trapped within the formation, had awakened. He listened intently to the Dongjing outside, his expression grave. She'll definitely come to save her beloved disciple first, and then deal with me after everyone is gathered. A golden streak of spiritual energy knocked a demonic creature back a meter. He looked up in surprise. Master has come to save me. The two underlings guarding below were frightened out of their wits, discussing, look, she went next door. Could it be? Their voices gradually faded away. The two of them, feeling the logic in this, shouted to each other and ran over. Hurry, go catch her over there. Meanwhile, Zhu Yunchang, tightly trapped within the formation, was filled with disappointment, almost on the verge of tears. He thought, "Master, as expected, you went to save someone else first." He clenched his teeth in resentment. Demonic energy began to seep in, taking advantage of his despair and negative emotions. He continued to complain, "Where exactly have I disappointed her? Is she going to abandon me?" His eyes gradually dimmed, his thoughts becoming more and more twisted. Or rather, has she never cared about me at all? Will she hesitate to discard me when the time comes? Finally, he went mad, laughing hysterically. This laughter startled the two underlings ahead. Tears streamed down his face as he looked up and asked, "Why do you always treat me like a child, taking me away and abandoning me as you please?" A moment later, he was completely consumed by madness, his face expressionless. Yet his mind questioned, "What should I do? Is it because I'm not good enough?" The guard at the entrance suddenly turned pale, staring in disbelief at what was before them and asking, "What's happening? Why are all the demonic beasts in the formation being absorbed?" A flash of light streaked across, leaving only a dark shadow in the air. Before the two guards could react, they were ambushed by two streams of black energy, sending them flying half a mile away. A pair of strong legs landed lightly on the guards' cold corpses. An unreadable calmness settled on his face, but his dark, vacant eyes thought, "Master, this time I will never let you abandon me again." Elsewhere, shouting hurriedly helped Lien and Yunyang up, anxiously pointing to the side and urging, "Sister, quickly save senior brother Yunchang. He's still inside." She responded with equal urgency, "I know, let me do it." A gust of wind imbued with powerful spiritual energy swept past Lien and Yunyang. Zhu Yunchang used demonic energy to gently lift her and bring her before shouting. In less than a second, her slender neck was in his grasp. He looked at her coldly, his eyes filled with remorse, his grip tightening. "I should have killed you long ago." She pleaded desperately, crying out, "Senior brother." Shouning's face darkened, and she shouted sharply, "Yinchang, what are you doing? Let Lien go." He looked at her painfully and asked, "Master doesn't want me to kill her." The trace of sadness quickly dissipated, and he made a gentle request. "All right, as long as you marry me, I won't kill her." She stared intently at Zhu Yunchang's crimson figure, her eyes fixed on Lien's neck, looking at her with anticipation, thinking, "Yunchang's state seems off." She anxiously broke out in a sweat, her gaze flickering as she weighed her options, deciding it was best to appease him for Lien's safety. She looked at him cautiously and softly agreed. "I agree. Release Lien first." Seeing her compliance, he was stunned. "Master agreed." But then a flicker of confusion crossed his face, and he looked at her incredulously, asking, "But why? Why wouldn't you agree no matter how much we begged you before? Yet now you agree without hesitation." Without any mercy towards an outsider, he flung Lien aside. A massive fiery red chain appeared in his hand, whistling through the air. The heavy chain wrapped around her, binding her tightly. Seeing her in such a state, Shouning's face darkened further, and she called out worriedly. Lien heard her call, but the chains tightened further. Zhu Yinchang looked at her tenderly and warned, "Don't worry about her anymore, or I'll kill her immediately." Shouning's unease grew, her hands clenching into fists as she asked through gritted teeth, I've already agreed. What more do you want?" Hearing this, Zhu Yunchang's expression softened, and with a gesture, he made his demand, "Come here and kiss me willingly." Hearing this, she froze, staring at him in disbelief, her face darker than the bottom of a pot. Still, she slowly approached, consoling herself internally. "It's all right. It's not like we haven't done this before." Seeing her approach, he said with satisfaction, "What are you waiting for? I waited a long time for this moment." She stood slightly on tiptoe, comforting herself. "It's just a kiss, it's really nothing." Then her lips met his. Her face flushed crimson with shyness. As they kissed, he deliberately transmitted his voice to Shouting, "Master, give me your hand." He took her hand and placed it on his waist, whispering, "Put it here, hold me." Her gaze gradually cleared. Shouting was thus held captive by him, embraced tightly in a kiss. She let out a soft hum. In the distance, Lien watched the two being intimate for a good while, struggling unwillingly, feeling like she was being force-fed dog food, and transmitted her voice, "This isn't right. I'm still here. If you're going to do something, at least tie me up further away, ugh. He ended the kiss and softly praised, "Master, you're breathing this time. You've improved." She snapped back, mortified, "Shut up." He chuckled contentedly. All All right, I won't say any more. He continued to comfortably embrace her slender form and suggested, Master, let's get married now. In a hidden corner of the table, his hand discreetly set up a small formation, his magic power causing bright red lanterns to hang all around. Her plain clothes instantly transformed into a magnificent wedding gown. Stunned, she marveled inwardly at his skill. When had his illusionary techniques become so advanced that he could create such a realistic illusion in the blink of an eye? She observed carefully, her mind racing to assess the situation. Zhu Yunchang, dressed in groom's attire, his expression filled with joyous excitement, took her hand and said, Master, don't just stand there. Come and bow to heaven and earth with me. Dressed as bride and groom, they stood in the center of the hall, bowing their heads and making their vows. Heaven above, earth below, bear witness. I, Zhu Yunchang, solemnly request from this day forward to be joined in marriage with Master Shouting. She obediently followed his movements, but her mind raced. He was completely unguarded. Perhaps there was still a chance to salvage the situation. He murmured, First bow to heaven and earth. May heaven and earth bear witness to our hearts in this life. We ask for nothing more. They bowed together. Her eyes were filled with worry as her hands discreetly channeled spiritual energy. She gently, yet abruptly, sent her spiritual energy into him. He watched coldly as demonic energy automatically gathered to resist it. Zhu Yunchang's disappointed eyes turned red. Watching the demonic energy dissipate, tears streamed down his face. He wept. The demonic energy continued to gather. Master, why? You promised me, yet you betrayed me. Demonic energy is invading my body. Master, the excessive demonic energy immediately injured Shouting. He looked at the injured person in his arms, his heart clenching. He cried out, Master. The demonic energy around Shouting gradually dissipated. She weakly groaned. The spiritual core in her chest was severely damaged, slowly slipping out of her body. Zhu Yinchang was horrified. How could this be? He thought. Her spiritual core is broken. She can't absorb the spiritual energy I'm transmitting. Watching her lying weakly in his arms, he couldn't help but wonder. Master has cultivated since childhood. How could a mere backlash of demonic energy damage her spiritual core to this extent? Anxiously, he picked her up, thinking, since things have come to this, there's only one path forward. I must seal the demonic energy rampaging within her. He immediately closed the door, bowed respectfully, and then, without hesitation, began to remove her outer robe. Shouting, still semi-conscious in his arms, groaned softly. She grabbed his hand in a panic. What are you doing? He reassured her, Master, don't be afraid. Your spiritual core is damaged. I must seal the demonic energy within you, forcibly injecting spiritual energy into your acupoints. Her voice was weak as she refused. No need. I'll find a way myself. Zhu Yinchang exclaimed in frustration. Master, now is not the time for propriety. She pushed him away, replying, I'm not worried about propriety. I'm just afraid of you. Hearing this, his face darkened. He grabbed her arm angrily. Afraid of me? Afraid I'll hurt you again. Zhu Yinchang frowned, consoling himself. Sigh, I can't blame Master for thinking that way. After all, it was indeed me who hurt her before. He pushed the thought aside and quickly raised his hand, channeling his spiritual energy. Red spiritual threads quickly bound her hands. Then, Zhu Yinchang tore open her clothes. Shouting panicked, her face flushing crimson. As his fingers lightly brushed her back, she frowned, stopping him. Don't, Yinchang. He ignored her words, forcibly pressing against her skin. Shouting's chest heaved, gasping ah. Her eyes grew heavy, and she gradually lost consciousness. She didn't know how much time had passed. Slowly opening her eyes, she found herself lying in bed. Zhu Yinchang exclaimed joyfully, Master, you're awake. Are you feeling better? But her first words were, where are Lian and Yunyang? Did you let them go? He thought, somewhat disappointed, the first thing Master asked about after waking up was them. He recalled Lian's words, I'll go back to my father immediately. He might know how to repair senior sister's spiritual core. He answered truthfully, I'll let them go. She knows your spiritual core is damaged. Before he could finish, she interrupted happily, that's wonderful. She felt greatly relieved. No matter what, as long as they're not here, I can rest easy. Yinchang won't hurt them. Shouting hurriedly sat up. He immediately asked with concern, what do you want to do, Master? Are you still angry with me? Do you not want to stay in the same room with me? She replied softly, no, I don't care about that anymore. She reminded him seriously, there's such a huge demonic gathering array in the Immortal Palace. This isn't something those half-baked temples can handle. Zhu Yunchang was worried about her and tried to persuade her, we must investigate this as soon as possible. But just as she was about to speak, the palace doors suddenly burst open. A young girl with flowing blonde hair and a billowing skirt laughed loudly, reminding them smugly, you two want to investigate the Immortal Palace. Then, she haughtily revealed her face and said, did you get my master's permission? Zhu Yunchang's eyes widened, his mouth agape in surprise. The ghost cultivator shouting was also stunned, exclaiming, there's such a powerful ghost cultivator in this Immortal Palace, hiding such powerful hidden weapons. Without another word, she waved her hand, and a flash of cyan light suddenly illuminated the area. Come on, let me truly become a master, she taunted. The light shot straight toward the roof. A barrier formed around the two, blurring the surrounding space. Zhu Yunchang and Shouting were trapped inside. They both realized with apprehension, not good, were trapped in her secret chamber. Shouting calmly observed their surroundings. Strangely, the barrier wasn't particularly strong, but the aura of the formation felt somewhat like the upper Sect style. She turned to him and said, Yunchang, your spiritual core is temporarily damaged. It's not convenient for you to use your spiritual power. You break the formation. Suddenly, he leaned his head on her shoulder, startling her. Zhu Yunchang said wearily, Master, I'm sorry. I'm a little unwell. Let me lean on you for a while, just for a while. Her gaze became suspicious. She thought to herself, he wasn't injured at the foot of the mountain. How did he suddenly become like this? Is he lying to me? She tried to push him away, then seriously reminded him, now is not the time to deliberately delay. Hurry up and break the formation. Sweating profusely, he explained painfully, does Master think I'm pretending? Do you think I want to use this trick to get close to you? She quickly replied, I didn't mean to think of you that way. It's just that your behavior these past few days has been truly difficult to accept. He said, somewhat disappointed, all right, if Master really thinks so, then wouldn't it be a pity if I didn't do something? As soon as he finished speaking, he leaned close to Shouting and kissed her neck. Her cheeks flushed, and she tried to stop him, but he wasn't settling down at all, even reaching into her robes. Shouting frowned, letting out soft moans, MMM. She weakly urged him, you should stand up straight, stop messing around. But the more she resisted, the more brazenly he pressed his body against hers. Pressed close together, they engaged in unspeakable acts. Shouting's eyes darted nervously as she warned, there, don't, but she couldn't push him away. Zhu Yunchang closed his eyes tightly, looking helpless. I can't control myself. Don't struggle. Maybe it'll get better. She obediently loosened her arms around him. His gaze softened as he looked at her again, whispering, yes, just like this, don't move. As soon as he finished speaking, he gently kissed her lips, thinking to himself, Master, only like this can I be close to you. Zhu Yunchang closed his eyes, experiencing a rare moment of peace. He lucidly asked himself, am I really no longer in that dark prison? Unpleasant memories surfaced again. This time, it was in a dark room, the sound of dripping blood being collected. Su Yunchang was just a child then, but he was being bullied by those two men. One of them sighed, saying with disdain, you're a prince too, but you're just the first prince's blood bag. How pathetic. Zhu Yunchang gritted his teeth and endured it, not saying a word. The man crossed his arms, smugly saying to his subordinate, hey physician, think of something. Don't let His Highness see himself being drained of blood. It'll make him feel a little better. The physician replied, understood, I have a good idea. Zhu Yunchang's eyes widened in horror as he looked at them. Shouting, he cried out helplessly, what are you trying to do? But the two men ignored his cries. Zhong, he held a wooden box in his hand. The physician grinned sinisterly. This is specially made for you. Enjoy it. Just like that, Zhu Yunchang was locked in the dark cell by the two men. Even his desperate struggles were futile. He looked out desperately through the cracks in the iron bars, unable to hold back any longer as tears streamed down his face. No, he struggled to reach his hand out of the box, pleading, don't lock me in here. Back in the present, both Su Yunchang and Shouting were panting. After that long kiss, she was still holding him tightly, panting as she reminded him, don't do that again, the barrier. Just then, the barrier shattered with a loud crash. The demonic cultivator outside frowned. Damn it, I didn't expect them to be so powerful. I shouldn't have revealed myself directly. Zhu Yunchang was so angry he almost blasted her away with his spiritual power, but Xiaoning stopped him. Wait, let me ask her a few questions. Xiaoning asked seriously, you just said you were the master of this immortal palace, and the barrier you used is related to the Diantong sect. Who are you exactly? The demonic cultivator stammered. I really don't know who set up the formation for me. I only know that my name is Zhao Ru, and becoming like this seems to be related to the Diantong sect. Xiaoning gritted her teeth, racking her brains. But I don't remember the specific connection. I feel like I've forgotten a very important person. Suddenly, she suggested, how about this? We can enter your consciousness and help you retrieve your memories and resolve your inner conflict. This way, you won't be stuck in this world anymore and can peacefully return to reincarnation. The demonic cultivator thought carefully for a moment. They had the chance to kill her, but didn't. Perhaps they really wanted to help. Finally, she nodded in agreement. All right, I'll let you enter my consciousness. Zhu Yunchang grabbed Xiaoning's arm. No, entering a demonic cultivator's consciousness consumes a large amount of spiritual power. Your spiritual power hasn't recovered yet. It's too dangerous. But she insisted, I've already decided. Don't argue anymore. His eyes widened in anger as he coldly held his hand in front of her. In that case, this disciple can only forcibly take master away. With that, he urgently wrapped his arms around her waist. Xiaoning struggled. Yunchang, don't be silly. I'm fine. Finding out the truth about the spiritual vein is the most important thing. He anxiously replied, to me, nothing is more important than master's safety. She looked at the demonic cultivator and reminded him, we can't just let her go. If we miss this opportunity, we don't know how many more years we'll have to wait. The demonic cultivator stood behind them, gnashing her teeth, demonic energy gathering in her chest. I might as well just drag them into my consciousness. Suddenly, a black mist spread around the two of them, and Zhu Yunchang's expression instantly turned unpleasant. He stared in shock at the scene before him. They were quickly brought to another space, surrounded by unfamiliar crowds and a bustling, lively scene. Everything around them was incredibly novel and strange, accompanied by lively clamor and beautiful women everywhere. Their eyes widened, their mouths agape, as they realized, we've entered the young girl's consciousness. Xiaoning spoke seriously, Yunchang, although the young girl's spiritual power is far inferior to yours, her consciousness is distorted by obsession. Once we enter, it's almost impossible to escape. She pleaded quickly, help me resolve this quickly. The sooner we find her lost memories, the sooner we can leave. He paused after hearing this, then gently set her down. She stumbled slightly, complaining, the pressure points you hit are still affecting me. My legs are a bit numb. He carefully supported her. My fault. Let me help you, master. Suddenly, a young man in the distance looked towards them, puzzled. Is that woman Xiaoning? What caught his attention was Zhu Yunchang and Xiaoning's intimate appearance. The young man's expression changed slightly. That brat, you cherish her so much. I wonder if she cherishes you the same way. Zhu Yunchang also seemed to sense someone watching him from the side and immediately became alert. He anxiously looked back. Ji Xinqing was sweating internally. Why can't I sense his aura here? This is clearly the young girl's consciousness. Seeing his unusual expression, Xiaoning asked, what's wrong? Did you sense the young girl's main body? He pretended nothing was amiss. Nothing. I was mistaken. Let's go look ahead. Hearing this, she didn't ask any more questions and immediately replied, okay. The two hurriedly searched around. Xiaoning glanced sideways. She pointed in that direction. Over there, look at the mark on her forehead. She should be a charm cultivator. At this moment, a woman walked out of the inn and said, this person is covered in wounds. Don't let him die at the entrance. Quickly drag him inside. The man opposite her said, innkeeper, you sound harsh, but you clearly want to save him. Zhu Yunchang noticed something and called out, master, look. He had discovered a detail. The face of the man the woman had saved couldn't be seen clearly. He must be an important figure who had been forgotten. The innkeeper casually turned and entered the inn, shouting loudly, food and drinks are on the house. I'll sing a song for everyone later. The crowd responded excitedly. All right. Zhu Yunchang sat drinking tea, but his gaze never left her. Strange. Where did the person she dragged inside go? Xiaoning said calmly, time flows differently within a consciousness. As long as we keep an eye on the innkeeper, we'll definitely encounter that person. At another table in the inn, the young man from the marketplace was huddled in a corner, trembling. Suddenly, a black mist emerged from the back of his neck, the aura quickly flying away. It finally connected with Zhu Yunchang, leaving him puzzled. Zhu Yunchang began to worry. There's a power that frightens me. This is his aura. He suddenly clutched his head and cursed under his breath. Damn it. Shouting asked worriedly, are you dizzy? What's wrong? You look terrible. He forced himself to appear calm and replied, I'm fine, just seizing the opportunity. He tightened his grip on her arm and smiled. It's just that I really want to go to Wushan with you. Shouting recoiled in shock. Why did he suddenly call me by my name? What nonsense are you talking about? Are you possessed? She stared at him, bewildered, but he ruthlessly reached out and pinched her chin. Then he slammed her hand down on the table. Zhu Yunchang suddenly seemed like a different person, pinning her down and saying, look at me. His eyes were filled with infatuation. Do you think I'm talking nonsense? Right there, in full view of everyone, Zhu Yunchang kissed Shouting. Terrified, she struggled to push him away. Oh no, Yunchang, stop it. He kissed her lips wantonly, and she cried out angrily, Zhu Yunchang. Just then, he suddenly came to his senses, his eyes widening as his mind cleared. He clutched his head and cried out in pain, bastard, get out of my body. Zhu Yunchang gritted his teeth and groaned. Ugh, ugh. Shouting supported him and asked the innkeeper, is there another room available? The innkeeper reacted quickly, yes, the first room on the left upstairs. They hurried into the room and slammed the door shut. Shouting asked frantically, what's wrong with you? Where does it hurt? Zhu Yunchang was in so much pain he could barely speak. He struggled to explain. I seem to be controlled by something. Master, leave me go. His brow furrowed, his expression becoming increasingly distraught. Then, an eerie voice echoed, how can you bear to let her go? Suddenly, a white-haired man appeared behind him. The man sneered smugly, haven't you always wanted to be close to her, skin to skin? I'm just helping you fulfill your wish. Zhu Yunchang gritted his teeth at his words. You, he glared and roared. Let me out. Zhu Yunchang abruptly shoved Shouting away, his uncontrolled action stunning her. He covered his face and pleaded, go. That wasn't me just now. I won't let anyone touch you. Not even with my body. She was completely confused, unable to understand what he was saying. Shouting tried to remain calm, stroking her chin in thought, finally making up her mind. No, I can't leave you. She gently stepped forward, lifted his chin, and said softly, our heartstrings are connected. I can use it to suppress the distracting thoughts within you. He said worriedly, but to use the heartstrings to suppress it, we have to be very intimate. She closed her eyes tightly and reached for his handsome face. This time, she initiated the kiss. Zhu Yunchang responded willingly, thinking to himself, Master's lips are so soft. Suddenly, a flash of light erupted. Butterflies fluttered around them, and they both felt a strong tremor. The man's voice shrieked, what's going on? Something is driving me out of his body. With a bang, they both fell back onto the bed. The demonic energy within Zhu Yunchang gradually dissipated, and after a while, they separated. Both their faces were flushed, and Shouting, still panting, asked seriously, Are you all right now? Zhu Yunchang still looked somewhat dazed. How does Master know I'm all right? She feigned anger and retorted, never mind how I know. If you're fine, let go of me. Still blushing, she awkwardly changed the subject. Can you sense what just happened? He thought to himself, Master's spiritual power is weakened now. Telling her about that guy will only worry her more. Zhu Yunchang quickly grabbed her arm. Then he explained frankly, actually, I'm not quite sure what happened, but I'm fine now. We should hurry up and find that person's shadow. She replied calmly. Strange. The heartstrings can only suppress. How could it force it out? He suddenly jumped up and said, anyway, it's a good thing it's gone. Don't think too much about it. Shouting responded softly, let's go out and have a look. Maybe that guy has reappeared. She quickly opened the door, her eyes widening in shock. The scene before them had suddenly become desolate. Zhu Yunchang was also stunned, blurting out, has time sped up again in the consciousness sea? She urged, we have to hurry. It'll be difficult to find him once this place becomes chaotic. They cautiously observed their surroundings. Suddenly, they saw a man and a woman standing in front of a small pavilion. The man said affectionately, Xiaoru, I'll marry you when I return. You must explain things clearly to your elders. Don't let them misunderstand. Unexpectedly, cracks suddenly appeared beneath their feet, and the ground began to shake. The girl cried out in alarm. The man held her tightly and warned, be careful. Zhu Yunchang froze. A piece of wood from above, loosened by the tremors, fell towards them. He immediately shielded Shouting with his body. Master. Amidst the perilous moment, flames erupted, crackling fiercely. Shouting, anxiously supported by Zhu Yunchang, asked, are you all right? He quickly reassured her, I'm fine. Ji Xinxing, go investigate that guy's identity. The mental barrier is about to collapse. Everyone here will be letting their guard down. Perhaps we can see his face. She quickly agreed, all right. Taking advantage of the chaos, someone shouted, stop. Xiaoru and two others, huddled together intimately, jumped at the sound. He looked around warily, angrily threatening. Who's there? Show yourself. From a distance, Shouting looked at the man's face suspiciously. It really is you. But only she recognized him. He frowned, thinking, this is reckless. She must be up to no good. He then discreetly gathered spiritual energy in his palm. He launched an attack, sending her flying a meter away. Get out of my way. She groaned in pain. Ugh. Seeing this, Zhu Yunchang panicked, his face etched with shock. The attack had injured her core. Blood welled up, trickling from the corner of her mouth. He reached out and caught her as she fell. The blow also completely shattered the already crumbling mental barrier. Finally catching her, he anxiously asked, Master, are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere? She didn't answer. Her lowered hand slowly gathered spiritual energy, preparing to attack. Suddenly, an indescribable pain shot through his chest. Caught off guard, preoccupied with concern and questioning, he hadn't expected her to not only remain silent, but also attack him at such close range. Blood flowed from his lips. Confused, he asked, Master, what are you doing? She still didn't respond, her vacant eyes fixated on something. Then, she conjured a long sword with her divine sense, breaking free from Zhu Yunchang's embrace. Even injured, he remained oblivious to the abnormality, even reminding her, Master, no, if your spiritual power is damaged, don't use it to condense a sword. Only when she pointed the sword at him did Zhu Yunchang's expression turn icy, as if looking at a stranger. He finally realized something was wrong. This isn't right. Master seems to be controlled by the legendary puppet dance technique. It must be the result of that mysterious man's attack. I'm sorry, Master, but I have to subdue you first. Understanding the situation, he immediately suppressed his reluctance, circulating his spiritual energy and using a spiritual rope to bind her tightly. She was restrained, completely stunned. Back in his arms, after securing the knot, he recalled books he had read, mentioning that to break the puppet dance technique, one must draw a fu on the abdomen. He was slightly apprehensive about the impropriety of the action, but ultimately, he felt he had no other choice. I hope Master won't blame me. He reached out, touching her abdomen, sending a tingling spiritual energy into her body. She softly moaned, that tickles. This scene made his cheeks flush, but he didn't forget his task. Just hold on a little longer. It'll be over soon. Finally, nearing completion, her eyes regained focus. Shouting softly called out, Yunchang. Overjoyed, he exclaimed, Master, you're finally awake. He quickly withdrew his spiritual energy. Only then did she notice her disheveled clothes, hurriedly adjusting them. My clothes. He was extremely embarrassed at the sight. Clearing his throat, he changed the subject. Ahem, Master, did you see that man's face earlier? She replied, I saw it, but I need to draw it so the demonic cultivator can confirm. A moment later, Xiaoru clutched her head, muttering in distress. Who am I? Who am I? Zhu Yunchang looked at her with concern. She's delirious now. Can we get anything out of her? Shouting persisted. Let's try. She handed over the portrait. Xiaoru, take a look. Is it him? She glanced at the person on the paper. Her eyes instantly filled with rage, and she screamed hysterically, it's him. He abandoned me and our child. Shouting was shocked. He has a son. Zhu Yunchang, still confused, asked, Master, who is this man? She answered confidently, he's. A familiar figure came to mind. She declared loudly, it's the Grand Elder.